Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Week from crossover day, so I hope everyone who has legislation that they want to see get over to the House, I hope y'all are working through that right now. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. At this time, I will ask all unauthorized personnel to exit the chamber. Recognize the senator from the 28th. Reading of the journal.
Good morning, Mr. President. We got a wonderful day today. Got some important birthdays today. Today is our very first president's birthday, George Washington. It is also the birthday of Fred and Wilma Flintstone's only child, Pebble. It's Pebble's birthday today. And today's National Margarita Day. But more importantly, we've got a great lineup of pages today. Out of Flowery Branch, we have Maya Ferguson. Out of Hiawassee, we have Nate Colvin and Rhett Floyd. Also out of Hiawassee, we have Tristan Waldrop. Out of Covington, we have Abby Boggs. Out of Marietta, we have Nayla Lamont. Out of Douglasville, we have Katie Merling. Out of Loganville, we have Sierra Meyer. Out of Cumming, we have Jackson and Will Pittman, the Pittman brothers. Out of Loganville, we have Abby Reagan. Also out of Loganville, we have Natalie Shaw. And then out of Stockbridge, we have Lucy Solers and her brother, Thomas Solers. Then we have Ben Spatalnik out of Lawrenceville. Ruby Taylor out of Decatur. Erilyn Williams out of Loganville. Out of Atlanta, we got Caleb Barber and Eliza Barber, who many of y'all know John Barber. They're his children. Out of Ackworth, we have Thomas Kime. And we have our very own Gina Wright's son, Daniel Wright. Gina out of the Redistricting and Reapportionment Office. And Daniel is out of McDonough, Georgia. Mr. President, the journal has been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator. Is there objection to dispensing of the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none. The journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and references of Senate bills and resolutions. Secretary?
Senate Bill 544 by Senator Harbison of the 15th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCGA
Public
relating
safety.
to Senate Bill 545 by Senator Harbison of the 15th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 9 of Title 19 of the OCGA
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 546 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health so as to repeal provisions
Regulated
relating to
industries.
Senate Bill 547 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 41.8 of the OCGA relating to safe operations.
Economic development.
Senate Bill 548 by Senator Mallow of the 2nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 15 of Chapter 1.
Banking.
Senate Bill 549 by Senator Mallow of the 2nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 15 of Chapter 1.
Banking.
Senate Bill 550 by Senator Mallow of the 2nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 21A.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 551 by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 50 of the OCGA.
Veterans.
Senate Bill 552 by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 28 of the OCGA relating to
Rules.
Senate Bill 553 by Senator Halpern of the 39th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 1 of the OCGA relating to holidays and observances.
Veterans.
Senate Bill 554 by Senator Inatarte of the 31st, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Part 1 of Article 5 of Chapter 9 of Title 45.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 653 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, a resolution honoring the life of Ms. Courtney Faith Zadowicz and dedicating the intersection.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 655 by Senator Payne of the 54th and others, a resolution recognizing Mr. Tim Howard and
Health and
dedicating.
Human Services.
Senate Resolution 658 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and others, a resolution recognizing April as Minority Health Month and to encourage cholesterol.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Resolution 660 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a resolution urging the state of Georgia to designate areas of the city of Atlanta as Nobel Peace District Number 1 and for other purposes. Yeah. Senate Resolution 660 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a resolution urging the state of Georgia
State
to.
institution and properties.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading of references to House bills.
House Bill 472 by Representative Crowe of the 118th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to employees' retirement system. House Bill 896 by Representative New of the 54th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 19.
Judiciary.
House Bill 904 by Representative Vance of the 133rd and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Titles 8, 10, 36.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 907 by Representative Franklin of the 160th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Article
Public
4.
safety.
House Bill 994 by Representative Powell of the 33rd and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Titles 51 and 52 of the OCGA.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 1001 by Representative Perkle of the 169th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 5 of
Public
Title
safety.
40. House Bill 1041 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Code Section 57.
Economic development.
House Bill 1054 by Representative Neal of the 79th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Code Section 4013.2.1 of the OCGA relating to signature on citations required.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1069 by Representative Cannon of the 172nd and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Code Section 4857.5 of the OCGA relating to assessment of standing timber, penalty for failure to timely.
Finance.
House Bill 1072 by Representative Cooper of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Article 10 of Chapter 8 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to drug repository program so as to revise provisions to provide for
Health and
farmer.
Human Services.
House Bill 1077 by Representative Cooper of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Chapter 10 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 1150 by Representative Collins of the 71st and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Code Section.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1183 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Part 3 of Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20.
Education and youth.
House Bill 1193 by Representative McDonald of the 26th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to.
Transportation.
House Bill 1235 by Representative Meeks of the 178th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Title 40 of the OCGA.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary Reed, report of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Education and Youth Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 154 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 532 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 394 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 423 do pass, and Senate Bill 432 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. Additionally, dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 154, 394, and 532, which Education and Youth passed out on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Sincerely, Senator Elena Parent. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 221 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 403 do pass and Senate Bill 383 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huff Settler of the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 346 do pass, Senate Bill 379 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 498 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 390 do pass by substitute. And Senate Bill 501 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Additionally, dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 390, 379, and 501, which government oversight passed out on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Sincerely, Senator Elena Parent of the 42nd District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 403 do pass and Senate Bill 383 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hupsettler of the 52nd District Chairman. I think you took the wrong one. Okay. Okay. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 460 do pass, Senate Bill 480 do pass, Senate Bill 481 do pass, Senate Bill 491 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 515 do pass by substitute, and Senate Bill 524 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 497 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 970 do pass, and Senate Bill and House Bill 985 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 465 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 474 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 347 do pass, Senate Bill 391 do pass, Senate Bill 466 do pass, Senate Bill 283 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 371 do pass, and Senate Bill 493 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 348 do pass by substitute, House Bill 167 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 507 do pass, and Senate Bill 508 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Slogan General has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 499 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Frank Gann of the 47th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Bill 324 by Senator Jackson of the 41st and others. State printing and documents, a victim-centered address confidentiality program, provide. Senate Bill 365 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others. Education notification to parents and legal guardians of public school students of the right to receive email notification each time their child obtains school library materials, provide. Senate Bill 459 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others. Civics, Education, and Portraits and Patriotism Act, enact. Senate Bill 473 by Senator Albers of the 56 and others. Georgia Consumer Privacy Protection Act. Consumer personal data in the state protect this privacy. Senate Bill 494 by Senator Watson of the 11th and others. Georgia Hemp Farming Act. Hemp products regulate. Senate Bill 520 by Senator Kauser of the 46 and others. Domestic relations. Revisions relating to income withholding orders. Change and clarify. Senate Resolution 583 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th. Dr. Robert F. Sullivan Memorial Highway, Franklin County, dedicate. Senate Resolution 609 by Senator Gutze of 51st. Princess Natalia, dedicate a roundabout in her memory. House Bill 876 by Representative Williamson of the 120th and others. Banking and Finance, update terminology, revise procedures, provisions. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the following senators for business outside the, yes, sir, outside the Capitol. 38, 26, 36, and 42. And 10.
All right. Without objection, senators from the 38th, 26th, 36th, 42nd, and the 10th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, excused. All right. Recognize the senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to excuse the senator from the 8th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 8th is excused.
Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th.
Without objection, senator from the 27th is excused. Senator from the 56th. Senator from the 56th. Your light's on.
There you go.
You're on.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
Isn't it true that if you don't pay attention, somebody could light up a button on your desk?
That can happen, Senator. It can happen. It's only the people they like, though. All right. Secretary will call the roll. Senator, signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 30th, do you wish to speak? How's the second day going, Senator? All right. It is now time for our morning devotion. All senators take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. It's now my pleasure to recognize and introduce our senator from the 29th to lead us in our pledge and introduce our chaplain of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. If you'll recognize our American flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Thank you. To the surprise of some of my friends here in the chamber, I have a pastor. Reverend Donald McDuffie Sr. has been a friend of mine for a long time. He became a friend of mine long before he became the pastor of the Rucker Memorial Baptist Church in Gainesville, Georgia, where he is the pastor now. He became my friend through our affiliation in law enforcement. Reverend McDuffie, and it's sometimes difficult for me to refer to him as that because he is such a close law enforcement friend, is the state chaplain for the Georgia Fraternal Order of Police, and he is also the director of Region 3 for the Georgia Sheriff's Association Chaplains. He's a retired associate commander of the Hall County Sheriff's Office after spending over 30 years in law enforcement. He is one of those unique individuals that not only does he operate well within the law enforcement community, but he operates so well within that servant leadership community made up of pastors and ministers and those that have a special place in their heart to care for others, no matter who those others may be. He is someone that has shown me unconditional love throughout our friendship over these many years. I've contributed to his flower fund on many occasions due to my inability to control some of my language at some of our meetings. He is always there willing to give me a hug and to accept my contribution for my failures. So to my fellow senators, I present to you my dear friend, Reverend Donald McDuffie.
Good morning, everyone. It is my distinct pleasure and honor for me to be here and to address you today. Let me give special thanks to Senator Randy Roberts' staff and fellow co-workers for the invitation allowing me to come and speak to you this morning. Senator Robertson have already acknowledged who I am and where I pastor and where I came from, but I just want to give you a few encouraging words this morning because of what you do each and every day. I don't want you to get weary about it. I don't want you to get tired about it. I don't want you to give up about it. And as I talk to you just briefly this morning, I'm going to go to the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. And here it reads, the Apostle Paul is telling the church at Galatia, he said, and let us not grow weary in well-doing. He said, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good to all men, especially unto them of the household of faith. The Apostle Paul is telling them, and he's telling us, and we're telling you today, even though you go through so much here each and every day, don't get weary. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep pressing forward. Because in due season, you'll reap what you sow. I come to let you know that what you're doing is not going unnoticed. Just hold on. He's telling us, continue to serve, continue to trust, continue to believe, continue to do good. As all of you here today have been elected for your positions, the people have believed in you. They believe in your leadership. They believe in your ability. They believe in your loyalty. So it doesn't matter what anyone might say to you. Don't grow weary. I know you're probably in sessions for a long time in the course of a day. Don't give up. You may not think you're getting support from the people that you represent. Don't give up. Paul is telling them this, and we're telling you here today, it doesn't matter what you go through, how hard it might get. Just hold on. Know that your work is not in vain, because we realize that you're doing this work for this community, this state, but ultimately you're working for the Lord. And that's what we have to realize and understand. It's not about me and it's not about you, but it's all about him. And that's what we need today. That's what I want you to be encouraged about. When you think you can't go any further, just hold on. When you think you're at your wits end, just hold on. We want you to continue to persevere. We love you. We support you. But God supports you most. He's going to give you the strength that you need in the times of trouble. He'll lift you up when you're down. He'll carry you when you can't go any further. He's always there for you. He's watching after you. His hands is on you. Let us pray. Lord, I pray for our country. I pray for those in authority. Lord, thank you for the service and commitment of all these senators and representatives locally, state, nationally, leaders. I pray that you bless them with wisdom in all matters as they perform their duties. Help them to realize, Lord, that they have been called to this office. Help us to be faithful in what you have entrusted to us. I pray for discernment and energy to do the things, the difficult things of the job, of the mission, and that they seek your will in all matters. Lord, your word tells us in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves, pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways. He said, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. Lord, we thank you for not giving us what we deserve, but you gave us much more. You gave us your son, Jesus, who died for all of our sins, that we might have a chance at the tree of life. We ask this in the marvelous name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. That was awesome. Appreciate that message. See, we have one of our distinguished congressmen here with us today. Dr. Rich McCormick is back there in the back. Everybody give Dr. McCormick a round of applause here for being here today. Good to have you here, Congressman. Always a pleasure, and I know you're glad you're here and not in D.C. right now. So, but glad to have you. We obviously always recognize our doctors of the day, and I want to call on the senator from the 12th to introduce our doctor of the day. Senator?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It is an honor and a privilege to introduce our doctor for the day, Dr. Desai. Dr. Desai is an internal medicine physician and practices hospital-based medicine at Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital in Albany. He's a Thank you, Mr. President. He's a 2016 graduate of the Medical College of Georgia's Southwest Campus and returned to his alma mater to serve as assistant dean. His program trains over 250 medical students every year throughout the southeastern region of the state. His passion is to introduce students to the richness of rural Georgia in hopes, and that's all of rural Georgia, in hopes of having more students return. He also recently started a year-long leadership track for his students and brings them to the state capitol as part of their advocacy training. Additionally, Dr. Desai works to reduce health disparities in Georgia and has expertise in colon cancer prevention. He collaborated with Georgia Core to form the CDC-funded Georgia Colon Cancer Control Program and serves as regional medical director. His team has prevented cancer in thousands of people in South Georgia. Would you please listen for just a few minutes to our guest? He will bring us a very brief message. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Powell Sims, for that introduction. I am Kush Desai. I'm the doctor of the day, and it's an honor to serve in this capacity. This is my third time doing this, so I do enjoy this work. This time, I actually brought along with me several of our students, so you guys can wave. Say hello to our students. And so these students are in Albany, Georgia. You guys can wave again. There you go. You guys can give them a recognition. Thank you. So these students are actually based in Albany, Georgia. They're from all over the state of Georgia, and they're coming to our region to learn about how medicine is practiced in the community. The idea is that if they get a good experience in the community, they'll come back and serve our state, just like I did. I went to the Medical College of Georgia many years ago. I did my training in the Albany campus as well, and now I serve as a hospital-based physician in Phoebe. So thank you, and hopefully y'all don't need me. If you do, I'll be downstairs. So thank you, guys.
All right. We have some special guests here with us today. We've got our technical colleges of Georgia. The leadership here represented behind me. And I've got my senator from the 4th who's going to introduce our special guest right after. Secretary, read the resolution, please.
Senate Resolution 628 by Senator Hickman of the 4th and others. A resolution recognizing and commending the 2023 Technical College System of Georgia Awards winners and for other purposes. Whereas the Technical College System of Georgia stands as a beacon of excellence in technical education, contributing significantly to the workforce development and economic growth of our state. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the 2023 Technical College System of Georgia Awards winners and congratulate Jeanette Velez, Adrian Baldwin, Kayla Hill, and Tara Jenkins on their prestigious achievements. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Recognize our higher education chair from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, it's an honor to make this recognition today. Many of y'all know that my wife, Joanne, taught at Geechee Technical College for 10 years in adult education, so we got a very, very passion for the technical schools. I was on the board of Geechee Tech for about 8 or 9 years, and then I served as chairman of the foundation for a couple of years. So let me read this resolution. It's Georgia Senate resolution recognizing and commending the 2023 Technical College System of Georgia Award winners and for other purposes, whereas the Technical College System of Georgia stands as a beacon of excellence in technical education, contributing significantly to the workforce development and economic growth of our state. And whereas the Georgia Occupational Award of Leadership Gold Program annually recognizes outstanding technical college students across the state, celebrating their academic achievements, leadership, and service to their communities. And whereas Jeanette Velez, an esthetician student from Columbus Technical College, has been named the 2023 Gold winner, embodying the dedication, skill, and passion for excellence that the award seeks to honor. And whereas the Rick Perkins Award for Excellence in Technical Instruction is bestowed upon technical college instructors who demonstrate exceptional teaching abilities, making significant contribution to the education of Georgia's skilled workforce. And whereas Adrian Baldwin, a mathematics instructor from Chattahoochee Technical College, has been distinguished as the 2023 recipient of the Rick Perkins Award, showcasing exemplary dedication to student success and instructional excellence. And whereas the Dinah Colbert Wayne Exceptional Adult Georgia in Literacy Education, Eagle Award recognizes extraordinary achievements within the state's adult education program, highlighting individuals who have overcome challenges to pursue lifelong learning and literacy. And whereas Kayla Hill from Lanier Technical College has been honored as the 2023 Adult Education Student of the Year, reflecting their perseverance, hard work, and commitment to personal and professional growth that the Eagle Award celebrates. And whereas the Outstanding Adult Education Teacher of the Year Award acknowledges the vital role of educators in adult learning, recognizing those who provide inspiration, support, and high-quality instruction to the students. And whereas Tara Jenkins from Augusta Technical College has been awarded 2023 Outstanding Adult Education Teacher of the Year, demonstrating exceptional teaching mentoring abilities that contribute to the success and empowerment of adult learners. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the 2023 Technical College System of Georgia Awards winners and congratulate Jeanette Velez, Adrian Baldwin, Kayla Hill, Tara Jenkins on their prestigious achievements. Be it resolved that the Secretary of the Senate is authorized and directed to make appropriate copies of this resolution available for distribution to Jeanette Velez, Adrian Baldwin, Kayla Hill, and Tara Jenkins. Senate Resolution 628 by Senator Hickman of the 4th, Senator Robinson of the 29th, Senator Harbison of the 15th, Senator Kennedy of the 18th, and Senator Gooch of the 51st, adopted in the Senate February 20th, 2024, signed by the President of the Senate, Burt Jones, President Pro Tem John F. Kennedy, Secretary of the Senate David Cook, and Senator from the 4th, Billy Hickman. I'd like to now introduce Greg Dozier, who is the Commissioner of the Technical College System of Georgia, to introduce our award winners.
Good morning, and Lieutenant Governor, Chairman Hickman, and members of this distinguished body, it is truly our honor to be here today. I'm joined by two of our presidents, Martha Ann Todd and Ron Newcomb over here on the side, but we're here to really share with you the best of the best, and we want to thank you for all your support and want to show you the results across this state that are making a difference on our workforce. Today, we are joined by the 2023 Eagle Award winner. That's our Adult Education Student of the Year, Miss Kayla Hill. She's from Lanier Tech. Miss Kayla.
Thank you. My name is Kayla Hill, and I am the 2023 Eagle Award winner. That wouldn't be possible without the support that you guys have given adult education. So I thank you for the support that you've given me personally and support that I can now give others in adult education. Thank you again for your continued support.
We have our 2023 State Adult Education Teacher of the Year, Miss Tara Jenkins from Augusta Technical College.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I am so honored and so proud to be recognized for doing something that I loved. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to improve our students' lives. Thank you.
We have our 2023 State Rick Perkins Award winner, which is our Teacher of the Year for our technical ed side of our school, Miss Adrienne Baldwin with Chattahoochee Tech. Adrienne.
Good morning. I am so grateful and appreciative of your support, and I am so proud to be able to inspire and teach mathematics at Chattahoochee Technical College.
And we have our 2023 State Goal Winner of the Year, which is our Student of the Year on the technical education side from Columbus Tech, Miss Jeanette Velez.
Good morning. I am so grateful to be here today. I am Jeanette Velez, a 2023 Gold winner. As a military spouse, proud Latina, and a graduate of Columbus Technical College, I experienced firsthand the transformation that technical colleges do here in Georgia. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm so grateful to be here today.
Good job, good job. All right, we have some great guests here behind us, some special leadership from Cobb County, and I'll call on our main man from Cobb County here, the senator from the 33rd, after we read the resolution. Secretary?
Senate Resolution 463 by Senator Rett of the 33rd and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Makia Metzger for her outstanding public service and for other purposes. Whereas Makia Metzger was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and her journey to become the first African American woman to hold the esteemed position of Cobb County Solicitor General is reflective of her resilience and determination. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Makia Metzger for her efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the state of Georgia and extend the most sincere best wishes for continued health and happiness. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Recognize the senator from the 33rd to speak to the resolution. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. Good morning to all my fellow colleagues. It's an absolute honor to be gathered here today to recognize three remarkable women of color who have left an indelible mark in their community and beyond. As we celebrate Black History Month, we pay tribute to these trailblazers who have selflessly lit the way for others, embodying the metaphorical phrase, candle in the dark. Solicitor General Makia Metzger, the first African-American woman to hold the seat of Cobb County Solicitor General, Judge Kelly Hill, the first person of color to serve on the bench of the Superior Court of Cobb County, and Judge Angela Brown, recognized for her efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the great state of Georgia. Their significant contributions and impacts are not only Black history, but also Black her story. It is with great pride that I share that I have a picture of Judge Brown's elder fellow Tuskegee Airman aviator in my office. So we do thank him for his service. As it is said in the Bible, Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to give a round of applause for these three distinguished candles in the dark. At this time, I'm going to ask each of them to come up, introduce themselves, and say a few words, starting with Judge Brown.
Good morning to the Lieutenant Governor and to the esteemed members of the Senate. I am Judge Angela Z. Brown, and I am honored to receive this award. I am emotional because I am the child of a Tuskegee Airman and the child of a school teacher who have dedicated their lives to service, and I stand here a product of Black history, a product of women's history, a product of Cobb County history, and a product of Georgia history, and I am proud and honored to be a part of this community. Thank you for honoring me.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, ladies and gentlemen of our Senate, I see my representative here as well. Good morning. I have members of my staff. I have friends here. I just want to thank each and every one of you for the recognition here this morning. It is my honor. It is my privilege. I am Judge Kelly Hill. I serve the citizens of Cobb County, and it is my privilege to serve in this court here in Cobb County, to be a member of the bench of Cobb County Superior Court, to be recognized here for Cobb County history. And thank you all so much for the honor and the privilege to be here today. Again, thank you.
Good morning, members of the Senate, Lieutenant Governor. Thanks for having us in your house. And Dr. Senator Rett, thank you for that introduction. My name is Makia Metzger, and I am the first Black woman Solicitor General of Cobb County, as you heard. And I want to thank everyone in my office, that front row and second row, for supporting me here today and for following me in this very worthy work. Prosecution is public safety. It is worthy work. I want to thank my husband for coming down here and supporting me. And I want to thank all of you for the work that you do every single day to make Georgia a place where people want to work, live, and play. This is amazing. But I also want to say, as amazing as it is, being the first trailblazer and breaking a glass ceiling is not because of just my work. It's because of the work of civil rights leaders. And I want to honor that today during Black History Month, the work of women, the work of African American civil rights activists. And I also want to remind all of you that as we trailblaze and we lead, let us not forget that as we open doors, they should never shut again. Women, Black women, and women should always have seats in rooms like this and in leadership positions. Thank you.
It is it's Law Enforcement Day here at the Capitol, and we're glad to recognize Colonel Chris Wright, who recently retired from State Patrol, and I can tell you right now, just looking at him, he looks more relaxed than I've ever seen him right now. So it looks like retirement's treating him pretty well, and I appreciate the senator from the 2nd hosting him here today. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 667 by Senator Mallow of the 2nd. A resolution recognizing and commending Colonel Chris C. Wright on his outstanding public service and for other purposes. Whereas Colonel Chris C. Wright has long been recognized by the citizens of the state for the vital role that he has played in leadership and his deep personal commitment to the welfare of the citizens of Georgia, and has diligently and conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of his time and talents, as evidenced dramatically by his superlative service as Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, as well as Colonel of the Georgia State Patrol. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Colonel Chris C. Wright for his efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the state of Georgia, congratulate him upon the grand occasion of his retirement, and extend the most sincere best wishes for continued health and happiness. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Recognize the senator from the 2nd to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President, for working with me to make this happen. We were tight on time, and I reached out to President of the Senate to help me get this honor in order for Colonel Wright. Colonel Wright has been a friend of mine since I first got elected into the House of Representatives, and it was on accident that we met. I was trying to text the Speaker's Chief of Staff, and I had messed up some digits. You know what it's like to be a freshman when you're in a new place, like going to high school. You don't quite know where everything is. And he responded back and said, "This is Colonel Wright from Georgia State Patrol." And I said, uh-oh. I said, "Well, this is Representative Derek Mallow from Savannah." And he says, "Representative, I got you locked in." And he said, "And this is not the Speaker's Chief of Staff." And I said, consider this our introduction. We've been friends ever since. Anytime that I've needed Georgia State Patrol or the commissioner, he has been there to assist. He has been a friend and a brother, and I wanted to make sure that this body had the opportunity to celebrate him in that way. And I didn't know, Colonel, that you started off in 1994 as a radio operator, but a distinguished career. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, would you do me a favor and please give a warm welcome to Colonel Chris C. Wright.
Well, Senator, thank you very much for that kind introduction, and I certainly appreciate everything that this body has done to support our agency and support law enforcement during my tenure and even over the years. And Lieutenant Governor, thank you as well for allowing me to be here with y'all today, and I certainly appreciate your leadership and your friendship. As most of y'all know, today is a sad day for us as Georgians because we have lost two Georgia State troopers here in the last 3 weeks, something that we have not seen in just over 13 years since the last time. So I'd like to just dedicate this to both of them and their memory and their sacrifice that they gave to our state protecting and service. And Jimmy Siniscar and Chase Redner, who lost their lives here just the last few days. And like I said, it's been over 13 years, and just a tremendous loss to our state and a tremendous loss to our agency. And hopefully at some point y'all will be able to recognize those two families because I know it would mean a tremendous amount to them. But most importantly, I want y'all to continue to thank the men and women who wear the badge and wear the uniform each and every single day, and continue to support them because they need it now more than ever. Our state is facing challenges that we have never seen before, and they are growing each and every day, and we're going to need those resources. And when I say resources, I'm talking about human bodies. We can have all the cars and all the equipment, but if we don't have police officers and state troopers and motor carrier officers and Capitol Police officers to use that equipment, we are not going to be able to protect this state. Our state is an economic engine in this country, and we all know that. And it is a focal point for our country, which we're all proud of. But we have failed behind on keeping up supporting our state law enforcement. I'm just being honest with you. We've got to do more because we need to retain and recruit the best people that we can possibly have to defend and support our citizens across this state. Because I don't have to tell y'all, the open border right now is bringing in a ton of problems for our country. And we are going to be facing a tremendous security threat in this country, and it's coming to our doorstep. And we're going to need the people to defend it, to protect us, and to make sure that our country and our state continues to be safe. Public safety is the core and the most important function of government, and it touches every single thing, whether it's healthcare, education, agriculture. Every single piece of our economy is touched by public safety, and if we don't have public safety, we're going to be in a world of trouble. Thank y'all. God bless y'all, and we appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
All right, well said, well said. I see another special guest on the floor today. We've got former Senator John Wilkerson here. There's old John. Mr. Ag himself. I used to call him Dirt Road all the time. He cared about agriculture, education, and the people in his district, and he did a wonderful job of serving. And glad to have you here, Senator. Glad to have you here. And you're doing a great job at the Technical College there in Toccoa, too. We appreciate you. So appreciate y'all very much. Glad to have him. Give him a round of applause. Woo! We're going a little out of order today, but I've got the senator from the 12th has some special guests here. We had somebody no-show on us, so I'm going to substitute our good friends from the 12th and the 13th district to speak to a group that's hopefully in the gallery, but I'll recognize the senator from the 12th.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My partner in crime. Today, we are honored to congratulate and commend the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce and for other purposes. Whereas this year, the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce celebrates its 104th anniversary of serving and supporting the area's more than 1,200 businesses and 12,000 employees plus. Whereas Sumter County's rich history is immortalized through landmarks such as the Andersonville National Historic Site, the Jimmy Carter National Historic Site, and Cananea Farms, each contributing to the county's and the country's cultural heritage and educational resources. And whereas the vibrant downtown Americas with its Windsor Hotel, the Rylander Theater, serve as a central hub for retail, hospitality, and cultural events, fostering community engagement and attracting more than 300,000 visitors annually to the county. Whereas Georgia Southwestern State University, located within Sumter County, leads the state with its premier registered nursing program and is recognized as the fastest growing institution in the university system of Georgia. We are so proud of Sumter County. And if there are any chamber members in the gallery, would you please stand? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate all that you do for Sumter County. My counterpart just said thank you.
I love all my South Georgia counties, and we certainly love and appreciate Sumter County. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Senator, hey. Is that Senator Renee Unterman? Oh my goodness, I don't have my contacts in, so I'm sitting here trying to make out. Can we welcome our former senator and colleague, Senator Renee Unterman, right there. Oh, it's great to have you both back here today. So I can tell you right now, Senator Renee Unterman, if you wanted to get in a foxhole with somebody, she was going to defend whatever it was issue you had. She was better than all these men in here. I can tell you that right now. So good to have you, Senator. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? I recognize the senator from the 54 for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, I rise today. I'm pleased to have the career and technical student organizations from the Georgia Department of Education with us in the galleries. There are 10 career and technical student organizations in Georgia who proudly serve more than 200,000 students. Many of our CTSOs are the largest in the country and often bring home many medals in national competitions. In honor of these, I have a resolution recognizing February 24th as Career and Technical Education Month and February 22nd as Georgia Career and Technical Students Organization Day at the state capitol. If you would, friends, would you please rise if you're in the galleries of students that are with us today? And could we give these a round of applause? We're proud to have you here. Thank you for all that you do, and our best wishes for your hopes and dreams to come true. Thank you, Mr. President. I will yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise because tomorrow is my 31st wedding anniversary, and this is the 14th anniversary. Thank you. Thank you. It's the 14th anniversary that my beautiful bride, Carrie, has spent while I'm in legislative session. And I just want to thank her for giving me the opportunity to serve, being my partner, my friend, and the love of my life for the last 31 years, and hopefully she'll stick with me for another 31. Thank you. I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I rise to tell you a story about Whitney. Whitney has a criminal record that is related to her being the victim in an abusive relationship. A judge restricted and sealed her record. However, to apply for her cosmetology license, Whitney still must disclose the record. And even though a judge restricted and sealed it, and even though it came from her surviving an abusive relationship, Whitney still worries about reliving this time in her life and being judged by the board on the basis of this record. So if SB 157 passes, Whitney will not have to worry about reliving her trauma. So she will no longer hesitate to submit her application. This is because the board will not be able to consider the restricted and sealed record. SB 157 ensures that boards focus on recent, relevant, and serious offenses, freeing up others to move forward in pursuing their goals and contributing to our economy. I commend our Judiciary Chairman, the Senator from the 17th, for sponsoring this bill, and our Lieutenant Governor for making this a priority. And I'll remind you that SB 157 passed this Senate unanimously, 55-0. So I encourage the House to quit sitting on this bill, and let's help Whitney move on with her life. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Recognize the Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think anybody is surprised that I tell you today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. You can't walk around the Capitol today without seeing a man or a woman in a uniform. And I want to remind everybody that if you get the opportunity to stop and have a conversation with them, ask them how their day is and how things are going. As you know, and as I've said in the past, while we understand the thank you for your service, please know that it's not necessary, because we do it because we love it. They do the job because they love the job. And many times we're up here, those that are out front, they're easy for us to recognize and they're easiest for us to remember. But the ones I want you to remember are the ones we don't always notice. The state of Georgia has one of the highest populations of probationers in the state of Georgia. The vast majority of these are individuals that have been sentenced on charges such as sex offenses and other violent crimes. They've done a certain portion of their time in prison, and now they've been released into the community. There are men and women that serve in each of our communities through the Department of, through the Department of Supervision, Community Supervision. These men and women drive to these homes of probationers. They look into their homes. They help them make sure they're continuing with their jobs and with the behavior that they need to help merge themselves back into society. When these individuals transgress, they are the ones responsible for going out, finding these individuals, and making whatever case is applicable to get them back in. It's an extremely exhausting, stressful, and dangerous job. So please remember the men and women of law enforcement with the Department of Community Supervision. Also remember, while we lay in our beds at night resting our heads, not only are those out on the street there to protect us, but we have men and women throughout the state of Georgia serving in our prisons and our jails. They're just walking up and down the hallways, caring for those who are being housed in those facilities, also dealing with the mental health, the physical health, and the other issues that our jails and our prisons create. And since we as a society have created jails and prisons now that are full of those with mental health issues and other problems, these men and women that work in our jails and prisons place themselves also in very unique and very dangerous situations. So when you're back in your districts, take the time out, to spend time with the Department of Community Supervision. Go visit your prisons that you're responsible for. Go visit the jails that need your support, and let the men and women that work there know that their state senator is here for them. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, members of the Senate. Two things. First, the guy's getting a picture back there that I'm missing right now. That's the Videa Skills USA class. They've won multiple awards, and they're doing awesome things, and glad to have them here with us. There's also one other thing, though, if I could get your attention for a second, I'd like to tell you about. Many of you probably see him. I don't know if you've ever taken a chance to talk to him, but the guy standing at my seat right now is Mr. Moses Williams. Mr. Moses, yes, y'all do know him, owns Williams Professional Cleaners. He and a team of 8 keep this building clean every night. It's a contract he's had for the past year. He works faithfully day in and day out here with a smile, a kind word, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. He was born and raised in North Carolina. He lives on Claremont Road here in Atlanta. He moved to Atlanta in 1986. He and his wife Lola, who's the brains of the operation, she has a PhD and works as a therapist. They also adopted their one son, McKee, who they adopted him when he's 4 years old, and now he's 9. Let me tell you how I got to know Mr. Moses. During special session, we just talk. He and I kind of get here early. And he told me about his mother. His mother was in grave health. She ended up passing away. I'm sorry to bring up a sad subject. But during all that, he was traveling back and forth to North Carolina, still keeping his crew running here, still keeping this Capitol operating daily because of his dedication and devotion to our state and his dedication and devotion to you. And a heart that big, I thought, needed to be recognized, especially on a special day like today, because today is Mr. Moses' 68th birthday. Mr. Moses, you do more than keep this place clean and ready for all the visitors that come in daily. You showed us your heart with how you treated your mother. You and your wife, Miss Lolo, showed us your heart with how you treated the least among us, the 13,000 children we have in foster care. And it's an honor to be your friend, and we all hope you have a happy birthday. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Well done, well done, well done. Senator, don't forget about your Videa folks here. Well done. Happy birthday, Mr. Moses. Happy birthday. Appreciate everything you do. Recognize the senator from the 17th. Senator Ways. Recognize the senator from the 39th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I rise today to recognize some guests here at the Capitol and hopefully still in the gallery from the Church of the Latter-day Saints, including the President of the Atlanta region. If you're still here, you can give us a wave. There you are. As you may be aware, the Church of Latter-day Saints is home to the renowned Tabernacle Choir, and I'm excited to share that they are coming to Georgia this September as part of their world tour. Their concert on September 9th will be held, and their tour is called Hope. Their concert on September 9th will be held at Morehouse College at the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel. This holds a special significance because last year the choir hosted the glee clubs from Morehouse College and Spelman College in Salt Lake City, Utah, where both groups were honored to perform on the choir's music and spoken word broadcast. Their music and spoken word broadcast is celebrating its 95th anniversary this year. They will also be having a concert at State Farm Arena on September 11th that will be free and open to the public, but registration is required. For over a century, the Tabernacle Choir has resonated with audiences worldwide, giving voice to hopes, joys, trials, and triumphs through their music. With 360 talented members, they've graced concert halls across the globe, from Australia and Europe to Asia and the Middle East. They've even performed at presidential inaugurations, World's Fairs, and expositions. This is a unique opportunity to experience their legendary performances right here in Georgia. So I urge all of you to go out and enjoy the Tabernacle Choir. Let's celebrate the joy and the power of music. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am rising in honor of Black History Month. I want to tell you all about an area, a historic area in my district called Beacon Hill. It's a 1 square mile in the city of Decatur that was settled by freed slaves after the Civil War. This community of families, businesses, churches, schools, and other common threads formed a rich fabric of life in the aftermath of the Civil War. While enduring racial prejudice and social inequality, the residents of Beacon Hill built a vibrant community. It met its own needs through entrepreneurs that provided necessary services, such as midwives, bakers, launderers, and shop owners. There were also 8 different churches to meet the spiritual needs of the community, all within 4 blocks of each other. Freed slaves founded the oldest of these churches, Antioch AME Church, in 1868. And they created their own schools. Beacon Hill is interesting when you look at the through lines to today. It was and still is central to the movement for racial equality and civil rights in Decatur and in DeKalb. In 1950, the Beacon Hill community formed the Decatur Colored Citizen League that 5 years later was formed into the DeKalb chapter of the NAACP. In 1961, hundreds came to Thankful Baptist Church in Decatur to see Jackie Robinson deliver the NAACP kickoff rally's keynote address. The community is no longer within that square mile. During urban redevelopment, that community, its actual physical structure, was decimated, as were so many Black communities here in Atlanta and throughout other parts of our country. So today, although the Beacon Hill community lacks that distinct physical boundary that it did in the early part of the last century, the legacy still endures because the community stood out for its resilience and the commitment to African Americans' right to thrive. And today I just wanted to honor the spirit of those that are still working within Decatur today to provide opportunity for all. There is a historical marker and a Beacon Hill Municipal Center. The DeKalb History Center tells the story of this vibrant community. And there's a great organization in my district, the Beacon Hill Black Alliance, that works to make sure Decatur remembers and honors this important history. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize the Senator from the 6th.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I rise today to remind you that today is Alzheimer's Awareness Day. Oh. There are advocates, which I'm sure you have heard just now, all across the Capitol here raising awareness about this terrible disease and the impact on Georgians and their families. There are approximately 343,000 family caregivers bearing the burden of care for over 150,000 Georgians who are living with Alzheimer's across this state. The care that these families are providing are valued at over $9.9 billion. And while science is making great strides at treating this terrible disease, there is much work to do. So in the meantime, we must continue to work to ensure that we are giving those who are impacted by this disease, whether they are those who actually have it or the caregivers, all of the resources that they need to treat it, to take care of those who have it, so that they can grow older comfortably in place or in a place of their choosing. If you are here with the Alzheimer's Association or as any organization advocating on behalf of Alzheimer's patients, please stand to be recognized by my colleagues. Welcome to the Capitol. Thank you so much for all that y'all do. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 36th for appointed personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Governor. Colleagues, a very special presentation awaits us, and we all know that we're suffering in the AT&T outage issue that occurred, and schedules are a bit topsy-turvy because some of us who have a certain carrier were not in communication starting about 3 in the morning. But that brings me to the occasion that we had planned for today, and that is to present a resolution to honor the extraordinary life and legacy of Dexter Scott King, the cherished son of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mrs. Coretta Scott King, and acknowledging his contributions to the advancement of civil rights and social justice. Our resolution describes in great detail the role that Dexter Scott King played. He was celebrated for his unwavering dedication to preserving his father's enduring legacy. He served as a strategic visionary. He took charge of the King estate, and he chaired the King Center in Atlanta, in the heart of my Senate district. Collaborating with his siblings, he continued the work initiated by their mother, Coretta Scott King, promoting peace and Kingian nonviolence as essential principles of leadership and life. Most of you may not know this bit of history, but I will remind you, in 1997, Dexter King met with James Earl Ray, the imprisoned individual convicted of his father's assassination, and he advocated for the reopening of the investigation into the tragic event. And with the family's support, Dexter King's efforts resulted in a court ruling acknowledging that James Earl Ray likely did not act alone in the assassination of Dr. King. Dexter King was renowned for his intellectual prowess in advocating for the representation rights of his father. He played a pivotal role in establishing legal precedents for intellectual property. and his contributions truly stand as a cornerstone in shaping our collective memory of Dr. King and the diverse facets of his involvement in the civil rights movement. I personally and we as the Senate want to express gratitude for Dexter King's innovative leadership and the lasting legacy he created, serving as a trailblazer for others in the pursuit of greater peace and justice. His life and legacy were celebrated recently in a beautiful homegoing service in the Horizon Sanctuary of the Ebenezer Baptist Church here in Atlanta. Today, we're joined in this recognition by Dr. Bernice King, Dexter Scott King's sister, as well as Dexter's beloved wife, Leah Weber King. Help us extend a warm Senate welcome to both of these esteemed guests who are here with us on the floor, and we'll welcome you to join and speak with them individually. We are so happy that they could be with us, and we stand as a Senate with our resolution to honor the life and legacy of Dexter Scott King. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. And we are honored to have the King family here with us today. And condolences go out to the King family for the loss of their husband, brother, uncle, and many other friend and many other things. And I'd just like to recognize Leah King, Dexter's wife of many, many years here.
Wow, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much. Senator Orrock, thank you so much for this honor. I know Dexter would be very proud. He embodied what Kingian nonviolence is all about, not only in his work, but in his life as well. He was a person that was always open to listening to all sides of an issue, no matter what it was, whether in work or in our personal life. He was an avid information gatherer to get all of the facts at all times for all things. He always educated himself relative to whatever topic he was working on at the time. He definitely gave his personal commitment both to his work, to his family, to this legacy. He always knew when the right time was to take direct action, and he always was open, even if that was the necessary step, to coming to a point of reconciliation. And the foundation of all of those principles is love and respect for our fellow human beings, which he always practiced, and which I hope that this resolution inspires us to do in our everyday life. Our children, the next generation deserves it, we deserve it. Like Bernice and Dexter's father said, I can't be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can't be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. So that just reminds us that we need to always approach each other with respect, with love, and through that we can accomplish many, many things, including the beloved community. So thank you guys so much. Dexter would be so proud of this, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, good job. Good job. Appreciate you. Recognize the pro tem for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Happy Thursday, which is kind of a Friday for us because we're off tomorrow. Just want to make a quick announcement and reference. It is absolutely my honor to get to serve you in this chamber as your pro tem, and it has been an incredible opportunity and honor for me to get to assemble a staff to serve this chamber. And I hope that you will recognize and join me when I want to wish a happy birthday to the gentleman that is the smiling face that greets everyone that comes into the pro tem's office, that helps organize everything, that keeps everything going. And it is Oswald Hernandez's 23rd birthday. Oswald. Oswald, thank you for everything that you do for our office, for the team, for everyone that's here, and really for the whole Senate side of this Capitol. We appreciate what you do and could not accomplish what we do without you. So thank you very much. Happy birthday. Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right, Senator from 35th, would you like to point of personal privilege? All right, you can do it from your desk.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Fulton County Fraternal Order of Police, are they there yet? They were going inside, but I want to honor them today. We had a special resolution and accommodation from the 35th District a few weeks ago, whereas the FOP, Inc., Fulton County, Lodge number 64, works to provide support and mutual helpfulness to its members, including payments of life insurance, sickness insurance, accident insurance, and other benefits, as well as raising funds for charitable organizations. It goes on and on to talk about the great things that they do here in the state of Georgia and in Fulton County. And I close with, whereas the Fraternal Order of Police Incorporated Fulton County Lodge 64 is served by Principal Officer Charlene Hurd, First Vice President Captain Howard Billingsley, Second Vice President Albert Carter, Lodge Secretary Adrian Grooms, Treasurer Andrea Thomas, Sergeant at Arms Jerome Hull, State Trustee Early Jarvis, and the Chaplain Alfred Francis. They all were here today, and I hope they're in the lodge to know, in the gallery to know that we honor them. And for those who are in there, let us give them a warm Senate welcome.
All right.
Join with me, please.
Thank you, Senator. We're all very proud of our men and women in law enforcement. We appreciate you recognizing that, and I know they know how much you support them, so I know they appreciate it. Thank you, Senator. Anyone else want to rise on a point of personal privilege? Senator Hatchett. I broke my own rules. Senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got some special guests here in the chamber today. The Rabun County GOP, they're here. Want to just recognize them. Thanks for coming down this morning. They're a hardworking group up in Rabun County, and it's a pleasure to have y'all here. Thank y'all.
Recognize Senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the Senate Rule 4-2.1A be suspended to allow for a committee report to be read.
Secretary, read the report.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 455 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 456 do pass by substitute, and Senate Bill 495 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 186 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 142 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. Additionally, dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report for Senate Bill 186, which Insurance and Labor passed out on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Respectfully submitted, Senator Nikki Merritt. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion prevails. You have before you a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolution on the consent calendar is adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? I recognize the senator from the 31st.
Good morning, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 554 be withdrawn from the Committee on Insurance and Labor and committed to the Committee on Public Safety, and I have approval from both chairmen.
The senator has moved that SB 554 be withdrawn from Committee of Insurance and put into Public Safety. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 554, a bill by Senator Innovatarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 5 of Chapter 9 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to Georgia State Indemnification Fund so as to create a presumption for the qualification for indemnification benefits based on a public safety officer having COVID-19 at the time of death and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the motion? Chair hears none, and the motion prevails. Senator from the 19th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I make a motion we take Senate Bill 427 off the table.
Senator has moved that we take. All right. Sit tight, Senator. Got to pull it up. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 427, a bill by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 10 and 26 of the OCGA relating to commerce and trade and food, drugs, and cosmetics, respectively, so as to provide for disclosure requirements for advertisements for legal services and for drugs, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Senator Tillery of the 19th offers the following amendment to... That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the senators? There is objection. Objection. All right. Senator, would you like to speak to the bill? No, it's not debatable. Actually, Senator, I apologize. This is not debatable. That's right. There is objection. The really only thing this essentially is affecting is it goes to the bottom of the calendar. So the senator from the 19th has made a motion on bill number 427 that was on the table. There was objection from the senator from the 50th. So all those in favor of the senator from the 19th motion will stand, rise, stand, and be counted. Senator from the 30th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to be excused from voting on Senate Bill 427 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1.8D, David.
Senator, I'm so proud your first vote is an excuse. Reverse. Senator from the 55th.
I wanted to call for a roll call vote. I need your hand up, Sally.
All right. Senator from the 55th is called for a roll call vote, which takes 5. Show of hands, and looks like we have it, so we will do a roll call vote. It's probably a good idea, Senator. Get them all in here. All right. All those in favor of the senator from the 19th motion to take Senate Bill 427 off the table will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion, the ayes are 26 and the nays are 18, and it just takes a simple majority. So therefore, it is put on the calendar. Moving on to the rules calendar. We've got Senate Bill 376. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 376, a bill by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the Juvenile Code so as to clarify requirements of parents, defects, and court in order to improve timely permanent placement of a child removed from their home and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. The Children and Families Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 376, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the Juvenile Code so as to clarify requirements of parents, defects, and court in order to improve timely permanent placement of a child removed from their home and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for those of you who helped me just a second ago, too. I appreciate it. Senate Bill 376 is a department, it's actually not a department bill, but it does relate a lot to the department. In a child termination and dependency case right now, there's certain factors that judges have to read through and decide. There's been some ambiguity as to whether or not if a parent's moving on one of those factors, if that's enough to say that the case plan is moving forward and therefore delay termination of parental rights, which would allow future adoption. This bill requires the court to determine that whether the parent has made substantial progress toward the completion of the case plan at the 75-day initial review file. And it also requires the court to issue findings about whether, the parent has made substantial progress as to each point of the case plan. Simple bill. We hope it helps provide permanency to the roughly 10,000 children who are still waiting for a permanent home and defects care. And Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on all those in favor will vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator for the second. What purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 6th for business inside the Capitol.
All right, without objection, the senator from the 6th is excused. Moving on to Senate Bill 387. Secretary?
Senate Bill 387, a bill by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to identification cards for persons without driver's licenses, so as to provide that personal identification card applications of certain applicants who are either homeless or in the legal custody of the Division of Family and Children Services do not require signatures by the applicant's parent, guardian, or for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator, the chair lady from the 32nd, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you may have noticed that we've got several bills that relate to children and families on our calendar today, and I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for his support for all these issues and for our committee. Senate Bill 387 is a result of testimony to the Senate Study Committee on Foster Care and Adoption, and it was one of the committee's final recommendations. We learned that many of our foster kids have difficulty obtaining a state ID, and that for the younger kids, they need a photograph in many different situations. This bill does several things. It waives the requirement for a fee for children in state custody for receiving extended care services from DFACS for a state ID, and it requires that a child or youth entering foster care is given a photograph within 90 days of entering care, makes that a DFACS responsibility, and it makes DFACS accountable to the ID card process so that the child has an ID within 90 days of entering care. There are many reasons that a child needs an ID, including abduction, trafficking, finding missing children, or simply employment, driver's license, etc. Special thanks to Commissioner Candace Brose for her willingness to take on this responsibility. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the way.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to HB 915. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 915, a bill by Representative Burns of the 159th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, known as the General Appropriations Act, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Appropriations recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tillery of the 19th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. House Bill 19 by Speaker Burns is the Senate's committee substitute to the FY24 amended budget. Came out of committee on Monday thanks to the help of many of you, and I appreciate the guidance and requests that you've made to get us to where we are right now, and the shape and fingerprints that you individually have already placed on this bill. The themes in an amended budget are normally very similar. We true up last year's expenses, usually formula expenses in healthcare and education. And then we try to meet needs as we see them in one-time ads normally. This budget is the same from that aspect, but it's different from the aspect that it has about a 9.4% growth over the contemplated FY24 general budget and recognizes revenues of roughly $35.1 billion and $2 billion of unreserved, undesignated surplus. This budget, on the Senate side, typically, we have not started new positions. We've also tried not to start new programs. We've simply trued up what we had previously. And I think this budget, for the vast majority, the most part, does that again this year. There are over 300 pages of this, 302 pages. We don't think the Senate's version is supercilious to the House's version by any means. So nor do we think that, our version is sterling compared to theirs. Out of these 302 pages, there are only 11 pages of differences where the Senate disagrees with the House and the governor. So it's for 95% of the budget, there's agreement across the three stools of our stool that passed the budget. In this budget, you'll see a lot of lines for $1,000 that if you add up over the total number of employees for that area, match a $1,000 supplement that you heard the governor propose in December. The governor's budget reflected that. The House's budget reflected that. The Senate's budget reflects that as well. Again, that's part of those 95% of agreements. Folks who are paid with federal funds are included in this year's budget, which in the past they have not been. We've had an issue with something called supplanting, and we've held out, and maybe if a person was 50% funded federal funds, 50% state, we have given them half of that raise and required the feds to apply the other half. We did not do that in this year's budget. The amended budget provides that $1,000 supplement for all state employees, including those paid with federal and other funds. The folks who are not included in that $1,000 supplement, though, are us. Anyone who's elected does not receive a $1,000 supplement in the budget that lays before you now. Let's kind of walk through it generally, some of the things that we did change. In the Senate version, I'm going on just the differences now. We've talked about the gains already. Well, I tell you what, we'll run through the gains together. In the Senate's version, you'll see that the Senate did an increase of $488,000 to match the add made by the House. We believe we both represent roughly 11 million people. The dollars should be the same for both chambers, regardless of the number of seats in each chamber. In the Department of Agriculture, you'll see that we took and increased the spending on bonds for the state farmers market to $5 million. We also included a little bit of money for the EV charger program at SB 146 that had been pulled out by the House. We did recoup some savings that we found due to the governor's disregard at the Georgia Ag Expo. And we reached a number on vehicles for the Department of Agriculture. The testimony said that they were using their own vehicles a lot of times to go and do inspections. We thought there very well may be a safety risk there. As citizens who don't realize these are government folks coming to inspect their meat packing facility or other agricultural related entities, we felt that the safety of a state car helps protect them. I'm going to back up for a second and talk about the courts because it's actually the thing that I feel most proud of that we were able to do in this year's budget. The senator from the 32nd, the senators from the 28th, the senators from the 37th, 56th, and others, the 4th, I could name almost all of you, have worked very, very hard to help us tackle first the hoteling problem and then the issues that are related to whether or not the 10,000 children still in our state care can get adopted out. We've had an issue for years at juvenile courts that we thought was a backlog. There was some issues even defining what a backlog was. And so this year's budget includes a $650,000 increase at the juvenile court judge, well, actually at the AOC, to say, hey, listen, we're going to do a uniform filing program that helps everyone know how long a case has been pending, whether a child has been waiting for a dependency hearing, a termination hearing, so we can help move those things along. There's some federal law about what has to happen in the first 15 months, and we hope this case reporting system, or this case filing system, helps give us cleaner reports, which is something that the courts have asked us to do, something the SAGs have asked us to do, and something that we think makes sense for the state overall. There's some really big dollar adds also at the Department of Administrative Affairs, and these are really investments, some of those one-time investments that help make the state better overall in the future. As you may know, we have a human capital and financial system program that is very dated. It does not allow us to see into certain expenditures that are made at perhaps the Board of Regents, along a lot of other departments too. The Senate went along with the governor's ad and the House's ad for $158 million to help redesign that program and implement the Next Gen program. I want you to know, though, that $158 million is not the total cost. The cost is over $500 million overall. But once that is completed over multiple years, the Senate, the House, and those who are responsible for being the appropriators of the state will be able, you will be able to look into those departments more tangibly to see some of the questions that you've asked us for answers before that we simply have not been able to provide. I believe 88 million of that is for Regents alone. The Senate also included the House ad, or the governor's ad and the House match of $5.5 million to modernize the Georgia Department of Labor's benefit, tax, and appeal process, as well as $248 million at the Department of Administrative Services, again, for property, workers' compensation, and liability risk pools. This is long-term cost avoidance that will save us in the long run as we're able to go ahead and use the cash that we have on hand to meet those expenditures now. At the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, the Senate agreed with the House on some transportation alternatives project. The House had that number at $2 million. It wasn't originally in the governor's budget. The Senate said this is a pilot project. We've only got 3 months really left in the fiscal year. $500,000 should be a better number to help us run that pilot. We support that pilot, but we thought the $2 million figure was probably a little bit higher than was necessary. At the Department of Community Health, the Senate tried to true up some numbers in LIM. We matched the House and Governor's number at ABD. At the Department of Community Affairs, the Senate matched the House ad of $2.5 million for community improvement grants for a total of $5 million. Back at Community Health, you'll see that the Senate also matched the House ads for the lupus program, as well as the AHEC program. And we took the Cobb Federally Qualified Health Center and pushed that into the base funding that you'll see in FY25. At the Healthcare Workforce Board, the Senate reiterated its position for studies on licensure and evaluation gaps in healthcare staffing for neurology, psychology, rheumatology, and endocrinology, something this chamber supported last year, and they're supporting again this year, and reiterating our support there. We did take an underutilized rural physician program, there was a grant there, and moved it to a nursing school faculty loan repayment program to help turn out more nurses and provide those who will teach nurses with a little bit more incentive to see if we can't help grow that number as well. The Senate also included increases championed by the senator from the 1st for OT-PT raises for providers and children interventional services. At the Department of Corrections, you will see a trim to the healthcare contract of about $2 million. We did agree with a $450 million spending for single cells at a new correction facility, and we also supported the governor and House's ad for a dramatic increase for capital repair spending of $135 million. The Senate, again championed by the Public Safety Committee, made a huge down payment on the development of a program to shut down cell signals inside the prisons. We also set a 3-year set for doing that. Prisons by 2026 should all have this technology, and the first project should begin immediately. At the Department of Economic Development, the Senate proposal supports the governor and House's proposal for $29.25 million for one-time funds for security concerning the FIFA games and Atlanta's chosen position there. We're very proud for the city. We did trim rents in one of our high rent districts, and we stuck with a House number on the funding for vehicles at the Department of ECD. There was also $1 million for what seemed like in committee came out to be something about a symposium. And we said that rather than making that state dollar spend there, we probably were better off to instruct the department to use sponsorships to host the symposium concerning the development of hydrogen energy applications, which are a very, very exciting field and something that we would support. In the DOE budget, Department of Education, we will be talking a lot more about literacy in the FY25 budget. So expect that to come up then. I've already had some of your questions about where's the literacy money. The Senate supported the House ad and the governor's ad of $100.7 million for midterm adjustments to the QBE formula. We also supported $27.7 million for the charter supplement program, which brings that line item at a total to $231.3 million for state charter supplements. We also directed the department to use $10 million of the roughly $11 million of ESSER funds they have remaining that expire this fall to support a project concerning character education in the classroom. Character and leadership development, I said this at committee, took a major hit with a lack of social interactions during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the $10 million in funding we have here have a one-to-one private match that will push a total of $20 million into our schools for character education. At the employee retirement system, the Senate supports the governor and House ad of $500 million to increase the funded ratio to improve long-term viability for the pension system. And we also left $26.7 million in the base from last year for potential use this year. We supported $8.6 million at forestry to update the radio network. We also changed their language. There's some hairs they were needing to buy, and we changed their language so that the hairs could be included on that line if we're able to find efficiencies in the radio program. We did have a caption change I mentioned earlier to the governor's emergency fund. Let's kind of go into Department of Human Services there now. We supported the House ad at the long-term care ombudsman program. And there's an eligibility verification program that's ran by Equifax and Talix. They had a $2.061 million ad there. The ad, we supported it this year, but we did want to serve notice that we're going to take a closer look at that contract over time. It seems to have escalated quite quickly. At Voc Rehab, the Senate position supported 1 forklift, not 2. The House position was for 2. And at the Department of Insurance, we supported $134 million for investment in the state reinsurance program to regulate the cost of private insurance plans and make premiums more affordable. We also supported $16 million in the governor's and House budget for the state exchange. For many, many years, the senator from the 26th has championed the medical examiner's office at Macon. He's supported also by the senator from the 18th, the senator from the 25th, and others. There's an ad in the FY25 budget for the medical examiner's office. Actually, I think it's in the FY24A, sorry. The Senate, though, wanted to make sure that Middle Georgia was not left out. And because of the strong efforts for the senator from the 26th, the Senate proposal includes $3.1 million in capital projects for the expansion and renovation of the GBI Medical Examiner's Office at the Macon facility. At CJCC, the House funded 1 SANE coordinator for each center. That's a sexual assault nurse examiner. The governor announced earlier this month that he was going to put $26 million in additional funding into that program as well for victim service grants, and we're going to match the House ad at CJCC too. At the Department of Juvenile Justice, we agreed with increased spending for maintenance, but we did not support the music studio that was one of their requests. At the Department of Labor, I've already mentioned to you the $5.5 million for technology upgrades. The Senate also included $2.5 million for matters related to unemployment insurance. I know many of you have got calls. You've asked us about offices that would or would not be open, and we've included $2.5 million in the amended budget for the last 3 months to move forward on those items. At the Department of Law, the Senate's position supports one-time equipment for gang prosecution, cyber crimes, and retail and organized retail crimes at $103,000 rather, sorry. And at DNR, we supported one-time increases for outdoor rec and state park renovations across the state to a tune of about $14 million. At the Department of Public Safety, the Senate supported most of the House and governor ads, included the $5.1 million to replace weigh-in motion equipment at MCCD. We did take a slight $995,000 trim, though, to the hangar project at DPS. We've already allocated, I believe, $5 million there, so we're like, hey, we're probably getting to the max of what we can afford on that hangar. At the Public Service Commission, there have been 3 ads that have been requested for many, many years about customer response system upgrades, phone system upgrades, and an ability to audit the Universal Service Fund contributors. The Senate supported all 3 of those positions. At Regents, you'll see the Senate move to a different position for one-time funding for eminent scholars at $6.25 million, slightly below the House's position. And we had a change in the equipment funding from $5 million to $2 million while still supporting that program. The Senate agreed with the House funding for one-time funding to the Georgia Holocaust Commission But we focused that $2 million that was allocated there on exhibits at the Anne Frank Education Center instead of on a physical project that could incur long-term debts and liabilities. At the Department of Revenue, you'll see $300,000 to help migrate to a cloud-based service and $108,000 in similar fashion to what we were doing at the Department of Agriculture to replace vehicles. The Secretary of State's office had 4 requests. One was for a power source UPS system. It's to help plug in as backup power for voting machines. There was a request to replace all of them at $6 million. The Senate's position was we don't think all those batteries will go bad at the same time, so we moved to fund half of those instead, $3 million. There were also 3 other additional requests outside of capital projects, $110,000 for watermarked ballot paper, $1.7 million for increased postage due to the need to mail out new redistricting cards, precinct cards after redistricting, and $5 million for third-party ballot text auditing technology. The Senate funded 2 of those, and we are awaiting confirmation from the Secretary of State before agreeing to fund the ballot text auditing technology that we hope we can receive in the next few days. At Student Finance, you'll see a decrease for the utilization of certain scholarship programs, the Hope Scholarship Grant, the Public Safety Memorial Grant, the Hero Scholarship, and the Tuition Equalization Grant. Those reductions are simply in headcount utilization. They're not any cuts to the programs, and their base funding will remain intact for the FY25 budget. At TCSG, again, I mentioned this at committee, I'll say it again, after much discussion, the Senate agreed to increase funds for meeting existing training obligations at line 341.3 for an add of $4.7 million. And at the Department of Transportation, while you'll see the numbers change a lot, all the chairs stay on the boat deck here. The number stays the same, but the moving within categories changes things slightly. You'll see $98 million at Airport Aid. You'll see that the Senate matched its House of the House ad for $8 million in state-owned rail lines. You'll see $250 million in the LMIG program, the typical LMIG program, but we moved that over to the LARP program because the LARP program does not require a match. And being in the middle of the budget year, the request from the second floor, as well as what makes a lot of common sense, is to not require folks to amend their budget to make a match this time of year. So if we put it in the LARP program, that match is not required. We also included $500 million for the entire statewide freight and logistics program and $50 million for capital maintenance, with the assurances from GDOT that this is enough with their federal match to get us through this budget year's capital maintenance requests. We took the balance of the money that remained at GDOT, the balance of that $1.5 billion, and pushed it into capital construction. I mentioned early on the things that were the same about this amended budget compared to most. Let's talk about the things that are different. Because of the state's strong fiscal financial footing, we were able to avoid long-term debt in the FY25 budget by taking what would normally be bonded projects and put them in the FY24 amended budget and paying cash. Essentially, we're using our savings that we've been able to create over years because of the strong fiscal stewardship of all of you in this chamber to avoid the now record high 40-year inflation that we would see if we went to the bond market. So you'll see some ads at the GISFIC line items that we normally wouldn't see, like the UNG STEM project. 1/3 of our cost of the Middle Georgia State University capital request, the medical school in Athens, a dental school in Savannah, $4.6 million to purchase the Augusta Transition Center for the Department of Corrections, approximately $300,000 to outfit new trooper posts in Fulton and Oconee counties. I already mentioned the $3 million for the uninterruptible power supplies at the Secretary of State's office, $6 million to match federal funding to expand the port at Brunswick, $100,000 to begin a study for a veterinary school at Fort Valley State University, and we were able to pull forward approximately $5 million for a project at Georgia Southern University. I mentioned this at committee, and I'll be much briefer in my comments here now, of state employees. I've told you we basically have 3 buckets of state employees. We have regents, people who work for the university system. You can go see their pay. It's on the audits page, open.georgia.gov, or you can see it on the Georgia Data Analytics page. You can see the pay, the second bucket that we have for our local teachers and anyone in a local school system. That's posted online as well. And our average teacher pay is now between $65,000 and $69,000 in Georgia. That's not to say that all teachers make $65,000 or $69,000. Some make more and some make less. Starting pay, though, is north of $40,000. And you'll hear why I say that here in a second. Our third bucket of employees is what we call state employees. It's everybody else. There's roughly 55,000 state employees that work everywhere from DNR to DFACS, Department of Human Services, OPB across the street here, Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety, and many, many other departments that if I stayed here, I know I'm going to accidentally leave one out. Of those 55,000 state employees, 29,346 make less than $39,999 a year. I don't bring that up lightly. I bring that up to let you know, as we deal with bills on our floor, as we deal with increases and requests that come from everywhere else, if we're going to invest in our people, we can't invest on every good idea that approaches our desk. The budget you have before you was created by you, but not simply by you, by yourselves. If we had not had, I need to offer some thanks right now, if we had not had the interplay that we've had with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget and Director Dunn and his team, we would not be able to be where we are here today. I want to also say thanks to Chairman Hatchett and Christine Murdoch and the folks at the House Budget and Research Office who had the first and the hardest crack at this, and they get to make their stab and their fingerprints on this budget before it comes to us. And then I also need to say thanks to the 10 people who you see scattered around the walls here in this chamber. Our Senate Budget and Evaluation Office, headed by Brent Churchwell and Austin Trott, but it's a team of 10 who you see behind you, who without them, there is absolutely no way that we could even generate the 302 pages itself, much less have the policy positions and the Senate positions that this budget supports without their help. And I want to say thank you to each one of them now. They are an incredible team who could be at many, many other places, and we are lucky and blessed to have them working with us. In summary, in close, this year's budget supports our state employees with a supplemental pay, maybe not as much as some of us would have wanted. It pays things ahead of time for the future by avoiding the 40-year high interest, and cash funds things because of our strong fiscal position that you left us in over the past 4 years. And it advances our priorities by staying well over 58% of the budget in education and well over 22% of the budget in healthcare. I thank you for all of your help to get here today. I look forward to your questions, and at the end of your questions, I hope that I can ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 915 as amended by the Senate Committee. Thank you, Mr. President. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Senator from the 37th, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen, yield.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your presentation. Appreciate all your personal expertise and effort in this. I wanted to ask this question just prospectively looking forward. Some constituents in my district are state retirees. Their question has been, you know, there had been promises made years ago about state retirees getting cost of living allowances. Any ideas about in future budgets as we're moving forward how, again, I appreciate your point. Every good idea that comes along keeps us from doing some of the foundational things we do. Any chances, anything on the horizon that might give hope to state retirees who've been looking for a cost of living allowance that we've not been able to fund in the past?
Right. Well, the budget before you now has $500 million placed into the ERS program. Now that $500 million, because of the way ERS is structured, we do not set COLAs by legislation. But the idea of that $500 million is to help raise the funded actuarial number of that fund so that that board can consider that. I think the $1.5 billion will put us close to 80% funded. It's not as well funded as some of our other retirement programs, JRS and the legislative retirement system being another one. The reason why those other two programs are funded higher is not because we've tried to put more money in it. In fact, we've, to my knowledge, have never put money into it. It's because we don't ever take our retirements. The people who serve in this room many times serve until they no longer are able to draw retirement. And on the judicial side, similarly. Employees with the 55,000 number, they're a lot more ready to take retirement at the 25 or 30-year mark or even at the 10-year mark when they first vest.
And again, in the spirit of asking questions, isn't it true? I appreciate those dollars we added. It's not specifically a legislative prerogative, but folks have been heard in this.
Yes.
And I just wanted people to hear this is something we've not forgotten these folks. We can't get there in 1 year, but I appreciate what's been done.
I think that's very true, and also that's why we highlighted the $26.7 million that we left in the base. That's been used in the past to pay out either a 13th or a 14th check. I understand that those checks don't compound on themselves as many of our state retirees would like, but I hope that that's a recognition of not only our moves for future fiscal stewardship and sanity in that program, but also an acknowledgement that we can't leave folks along the way holding a bag while we're trying to fix a fund.
Thank you, sir.
Recognize the senator from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentleman, will yield.
Yes, sir.
The question I need to ask you is there any monies that we'll be able to use on rural hospitals?
Yes, sir. Most of those would have gone into the FY24 budget that we would not have pulled out. There's no pullouts of this program that I could see. Remember the things we funded in the 24 budget, or no pullouts that I've seen that relate to rural hospitals. The 2024 items that we funded and also supported from a policy standpoint would first be the DPP program, which was funded to alleviate all the cost-reported indigent care of our rural hospitals, actually of all of our hospitals, because Grady was included in that, and the Augusta University Hospital. We also have left the base funding number for rural stabilization grants. We've not taken that to zero yet. We've reduced it post-COVID, but we've not taken that to zero. And we have substantial adds for like the PTOT raises and other Medicaid raises. The PTOT are just in the 24 amended, but those other rate increases for Medicaid that we placed in the 24 budget have not been pulled out of this budget.
Gentleman, yield further.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true, I've just been informed that we have several rural hospitals that might close, and that CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Service, has said that we cannot advance dish monies. And normally what we used to do is go to the Commissioner DCH and help them pay their bills. But the majority of their problem is uncompensated care for those folks who have come in and were not able to pay. What I'm trying to find out, do we have a mechanism so that when we get out of session, that we don't have to hear about it on television and the newspapers that these rural hospitals are finna close?
Well, Senator, I can't give you an absolute on that, but I can tell you that there are state programs certainly there to help, including that rural hospital stabilization program that's in the base, and I imagine you'll see the base funding again in FY25. And because of your help and many others, the DPP program, which in itself last year was set up to totally cover the cost of non-compensated indigent care by the DISH program and the DPP program and their rollout. And that wouldn't have happened without you and the support of many others, and I appreciate that.
One more question, Senator. Senator from the 33rd, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the distinguished gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to commend you on the tremendous effort that you did to put this budget together. I know I try to manage my little budget, and I have a hard time keeping the senator from the 35th hand out of my pocket. But as the previous senator from the 53rd would say, after scrubbing this budget of yours, where's the moral turpitude at?
I hope we have avoided any moral turpitude in this budget, Senator. That would be my hope. And for your personal request, I know that you have been a strong advocate for Cobb County. Please know that FQHC that you don't see funded in this budget has already been set aside and earmarked monies in FY25. If there are no further questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
Yeah, no more questions. No further questions.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration of the state's mid-year amended budget.
Thank you, Senator. Good job as always from the senator from the 19th, but especially like to thank his staff. Do a wonderful job. Brett, y'all do an awesome job, and I just want you to thank each and every one of you guys. I can tell you it was a big budget this year, and not everybody was happy, and there was a lot of requests, and but the senator from the 19th and his team did everything they could to try to accommodate as many senators as possible. So that's not an easy job. As y'all know, it's hard to tell colleagues no, but sometimes you have to do it. So good job, Senator. Any other senator wish to speak on behalf of this bill? Senator from the 53rd, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you said, a lot of requests in this year's budget. I'm happy to announce I didn't make any requests into this budget except for cuts. I asked the chairman for cuts, and I will be opposed to this budget today. I dream of a day where I can one day vote for a budget, this big omnibus bill, this bill that includes teachers' salaries, police officers' salaries, along with corporate subsidies. The most important piece of legislation is right now this budget, the only thing that we're constitutionally mandated to do. But I think some of you think that you have a constitutional mandate to vote green. You know, today it's going to be a really close vote, Mr. Chairman. It's going to be close to unanimous. You know, we have years of surplus. Since I first entered into the House across the way, we've had years of surplus, but I yet to see a plan to pay off our debt. I see Republicans on the campaign trail talk about how they want to repeal the income tax. I do too, Mr. President. But I think this year's plan to repeal the income tax is a fraud on our citizens when we're only going to repeal the income tax by 0.1%. Mr. President, it will take 54 years to repeal the income tax. I don't think I'm going to live that long, Mr. President. I'll never see the day, and I'm the youngest member in this chamber. You see, if we don't start paying off our debts, I don't know how we can promise our constituents that we want to lower the income tax. You see, it's bad planning in our budget when we start having corporate subsidies. I'm pleased with my neighbor from the 52nd who has pushed legislation to showcase the tax credits in upcoming years in our budget. When we spend tens of billions of dollars that never show up and are never realized in our budget because we dish them out in corporate subsidies. You see, this chamber, we regulate the insurance business, but then in this budget, we're going to subsidize insurance companies to, I think, of a tune about $130 million. We're also going to be spending money on rural workforce housing. Mr. President, I'm absolutely opposed to that. You know, we had some conversation in here about coal mines a couple weeks ago, and it was back in the day that the big corporate conglomerate of the coal mine would build the houses for their employees. Think about Milltown over here, this place, Cabbagetown. It was a place that the corporations built the houses, but now we're going to use taxpayer money and start subsidizing rural workforce housing. That is the worst type of welfare, corporate welfare. You know, we're also spending a lot of money to expand electric vehicles, Mr. President. Absolutely opposed to that as well. You know, the Democratic Socialist of America, if you go to their website right now, you will find a statement from them claiming that climate change will create an opening for socialist politics by breaking the link between capitalist growth and political legitimacy. Mr. President, we are funding corporations with taxpayer dollars, and meanwhile, we are not funding the things that are the proper role of government. I learned in a transportation committee the other day that in order to maintain a good standard of highways, we should pave all of our highways once every 10 years. That would be 1,800 miles of pavement a year. In the last couple of years, though, we've only done 300 miles. We would have had even less miles paved this year if it wasn't for the rescue of the federal government laying down some federal funds for us. You see, the Republicans in this chamber claim economic growth through the means of corporate subsidy. But people in Northwest Georgia know that economic growth comes from infrastructure. And I think any senator, no matter where you're from, when you drive down your local highways, you'll get to bumping up and down. Because we've stretched our dollars so thin in transportation, how do we grow as an economy? It's a fraud to our citizens if we're not investing in infrastructure, Mr. President. For about 6 or 7 years, I've been asking for some caution lights. Still don't have them. About $120,000 expense. Had the engineers, the Department of Transportation come and look at it. They agree maybe we should have those caution lights. But they're so backed up. Everybody's made a request. So we can't get proper safety infrastructure in Northwest Georgia, but by George, we can fund rural workforce housing. It's nonsense. Mr. President, what makes my blood boil is our neglect of public safety. You see, every state, we just heard the former colonel talk about it earlier today. Since the austerity cuts of 08 or 09, we have not built a proper retirement system and a proper salary system for our state law enforcement officers. You see, a slick sleeve, that means they don't have any rank, they're brand new to a force. In Tennessee, they can make $80-something thousand a year. They're making $60-something thousand here. If they get hurt in the line of duty in another state, they're going to get up to 75% of their salary for risking their life and getting hurt in the line of duty. We offer 25%, Mr. President. I warn this chamber that there's probably going to be mutiny amongst our state troopers if we don't get our act together in the coming years. It's so frustrating when you cruise through Northwest Georgia and you go by the grocery store and there's campaign signs sticking up that say, "We want you to work for the Department of Public Safety." How have we gotten to a point where we have to put out campaign signs to recruit state law enforcement officers? A good friend of mine, Mr. President, was a state trooper. He was chasing a felon down Interstate 75. I've told this story many times. Breaks his neck. Is no longer able to perform his duties. Injured in the line of duty. The best we can offer him is $1,100 a month in insurance. That's it. How do we expect somebody to go on the front lines and defend the laws that we create in this chamber if that's the best we can offer them? Mr. Chairman, I asked you last year about motor carrier compliance. We continue to leave them behind too. I do not think we are prepared for an invasion in this state. Thousands of illegal immigrants are coming in. People are being human trafficked. We've just sent 20 people down to the border with state resources. That's the best we can do there. Mr. President, we've got to get refocused. We've got to get refocused on what is the proper role of government and stop telling our citizens that we're the #1 state to do business in, because if we're going to call ourselves the #1 state to do business in and we're going to hand out corporate subsidies to do it, then we're not, and we never will be. Mr. President, people ask me all the time, how do you vote no on the budget? I don't know how you vote yes on it. And I dream of a day where I can. Mr. President, I yield the well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator from the 19th. For what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate immediately transmit House Bill 915 to the House.
Senators move that the budget, House Bill 915, be immediately transmitted. Is there objection? Without objection, it is transmitted. Recognize, actually, Senate Bill 401. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 401, a bill by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the Juvenile Code so as to implement the recommendations of the Senate Foster Care and Adoption Study Committee to provide for annual reporting to the General Assembly of certain de-identified data from juvenile court clerks relating to foster children who are in need of services or delinquent and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. The Children and Family Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 401, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the Juvenile Code so as to require each juvenile court to collect data on cases in which a child alleged or adjudicated to be dependent is placed in foster care and for other purposes. Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd offers the following amendment to amend the Senate Committee on Children and Family substitute to Senate Bill 401 by replacing lines 72 through 77 with the following. Elements as provided in subsection B of this code section. All such required data elements shall be submitted through a regularly scheduled data upload and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 32nd. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 401 addresses another one of the recommendations of the Foster Care and Adoption Study Committee. The timeline to permanency for foster kids is very important. Permanency can result in either reunification, termination of parental rights and adoption, or a permanent guardianship with a family member or effective kin. There are existing statutory reporting guidelines to the Administrative Office of the Courts within the juvenile court system, but there's a lack of data due to the lack of a uniform state reporting system and noncompliance. I wrote a letter to the Administrative Office of the Courts requesting their dependency data, and the results are not what we need. I have the list at my desk if anybody wants to know about your specific counties. 39 of our counties, including many of the larger counties, use a system called JCATS, which automatically uploads into a system called JDEX, which is already used for reporting delinquency data. 11 counties use their own system. 110 counties did not report any data. If any senator wants this information, please come and see me later. This bill specifies the data elements that would need to be collected and reported to the Administrative Office of the Courts clearly and with no ambiguity, and subsequently requires reporting of the data to the General Assembly. The bill does not mandate the use of any specific case management system, although it would be beneficial to get to a uniform system, and I appreciate the support from the Appropriations Chair to help us get there. The bill also eliminates delay in filing a petition to terminate parental rights by removing the requirement for endorsement by the court. There's no definition in Title 15 and no uniformity to the standards or processes used by judges across the state. Implementation of these reporting requirements is likely to take some time, but is much needed. The first report from the AOC to the General Assembly is due in April of 2025. This should give us a better look at how the juvenile courts are doing and following the statutory guidelines that were passed in 2021. I'll talk about the amendment also. In the committee, it came up that in the substitute bill, we referred to one of the specific case management systems known as JCATS, and this amendment takes out that sentence that refers to a specific case management system and does not change the process. So with that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Question is on Amendment 1, adoption of Amendment 1. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment 1? We have an objection. Would you like to speak to your objection, Senator? I'm sorry. We actually already called the question. I apologize. So, Senator from the 53rd has objected to the amendment. All those who are in favor of the amendment will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of the amendment, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1, and the amendment is adopted. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Senate Bill 483. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 483, a bill by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 39 of the OCGA relating to minors, so as to enter into the interstate compact for the placement of children, to provide for a short title, to provide for definitions, to provide for the provisions of the compact, to provide for the present compact to remain in effect until the effective date of the new compact, and to provide for automatic repeal and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from Habersham County, the pride and joy of Georgia Tech.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring you Senate Bill 483. What Senate Bill 483 does is it addresses an issue in the state of Georgia now. The state of Georgia, along with all 49 other states, have entered into something called the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. That was done in 1960, and the goal of the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children was to help assist different states when they needed to place a child across state lines. It assures they have the medical care and the resources that they need. Because it was promulgated in 1960, there are some updates that need to occur, and those updates have been made, and there is a new Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. It is called the Revised Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. This bill would allow Georgia to join that. There are 16 states now that have joined it. When 35 states join, then it becomes the new compact. So I would ask for your favorable consideration in allowing Georgia to enter into the Revised Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well if I have no questions.
Question. You do have questions, Senator. Senator from the 20th. Senator from the 20th. You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the senator yield?
I will.
Is this got anything to do with like media or advertising or anything?
Negative. It does not.
Just to help the kids?
That's right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will yield the well.
Senator has yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to SR 471. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 471, a resolution by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Access to Affordable Child Care and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from 56. Senator from 33rd, for what purpose do you rise?
Point of order, sir. I want to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 46th for business inside the Capitol.
Okay, without objection, Senator from 46, excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by thanking President of our body, our Lieutenant Governor, for bringing this important initiative forward and asking me to sponsor Senate Resolution 471 and working with our esteemed chairlady of Children and Families, Senator from the 32nd. The Senate knows that today our most important resource are our children. And in their most youngest and formidable years, we need to surround them with the care that they need to make sure they are in a safe environment, to make sure that we have created an atmosphere that is both affordable and educational before they get to their primary years of full school. This study committee will allow us, making it a priority, to go throughout this great state and find unique options available for us to enhance the law and budgeting in order to focus on early child care. If there aren't any questions, I will yield the well, Mr. President, and thank you for your support.
Yes, sir. You do have one question. Senator for the 20th, would you like to ask? Senator from the 20th, you're active today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, is it not true that it's past lunchtime, and I don't believe we have lunch in the anteroom, and these silly little time-consuming jokes here are just making me hungry.
Senator knows with what he speaks.
All right, Senator.
Thank you.
Question. You have no further questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 51, the nays are 3. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is adopted. My two most loyal friends back there had a red mark by their names. Oh, friends like those guys, I tell you. Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate insist on its position to House Bill 915.
The senator has moved that the Senate insist on HB 915, which is the budget. Well, you need to read the comment.
House Bill 915. A bill by Representative Burns of the 159th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, known as the General Appropriations Act and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection? Hearing none, the Senate will insist on its position on HB 915. All right. Moving on to SR 474. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 474, a resolution by Senator Watson of the 1st and others, a resolution urging partnership among the Office of the Child Advocate for the Protection of Children, the DFACS of the Department of Human Services, and the Boards of Commissioners for all Georgia counties to promote the provision of quality legal representation for parents, children, and youth and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass. As directly submitted, Senator Brass of the 28th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. In just 1 year in Chatham County, through work with 3 full-time attorneys, social worker, legal secretary, in child welfare cases, foster care was reduced from 29.7 months to 19.9 months, while providing significant enhancements in the quality control, and oversight of the representation of children in our welfare system. This is a resolution urging other counties to do the same. There is a U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration for Child and Families. There is the Title IV reimbursement that can be obtained through application. And this is an urging resolution that I've worked on with the Lieutenant Governor's office. As a matter of fact, Gwinnett, Troup, and Coweta County are already asking for this help. So in continuing the theme relating to children and families, we're asking that they partner and collaborate and work in the best interest for the outcomes of abused and neglected children in the state's care. Mr. President, I ask for your favorable consideration and I yield the will.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hearing none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. The resolution having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. All right. we've got Senate Bill 427. But before we do that, I just want to thank the chair lady from the 32nd. Fabulous, fabulous job, what you've done with the Children and Family Committee. Want to continue to do great work with that. Proud of what you're doing, and let's give her a round of applause. So good job, Senator. All right, so we've got Senate Bill 427. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 427, a bill by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be the town enact to amend Titles 10 and 26 of the OCGA relating to commerce and trade and food, drugs, and cosmetics, respectively, so as to provide for disclosure requirements for advertisements for legal services and for drugs and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Senator Tillery of the 19th offers the following amendment to amend Senate Bill 427 by replacing lines 39 through 42 with the following. A, each advertisement of a drug in this state shall include within such advertisement each disclosure required by federal law. Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others offer the following amendment to amend Senate Bill 427 by striking lines 15 through 33 and replacing with B, the State Bar of Georgia shall promulgate rules of advertising to be adhered to by any person or persons soliciting such services to the general public on TV, radio, or visual media platforms to ensure such solicitations comply with the provisions of OCGA 10-1-424.1 and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 19th to speak to the bill.
Hey, thank you, members of this body. Y'all have been extremely indulgent with your time with me today. Senate Bill 427 is a bill we placed on the table earlier last week to allow some time for some more negotiations to possibly work this out where we could have an agree across the board. We weren't able to work that out yet, so that's why I'm here today to bring the bill back before you and tell you what it does and what it doesn't do. Senate Bill 427 is a successive bill to a bill we passed last year concerning attorney advertising. All of you voted in favor of it. It went across to the House. It passed there. I think it took an amendment, came back, went to the governor's desk, and was signed. It basically said you can't say stuff that isn't true. If you're going to advertise with people on a sign and they really don't belong to your law firm, you've got to put up a disclaimer. If you're going to say you're an attorney at law and you practice in these areas and you don't, you're going to have to put up a disclaimer. If you're going to say other things that are false and misleading, you've got to put up a disclaimer. All it was essentially a truth in advertising piece of legislation that passed this body overwhelmingly, went over to the House. The House realized it was, I guess, a good bill because they put a bill on there that wasn't quite as good, sent it back thinking that we would pass it once we got here, and of course we did. And then it got signed. It's been law for almost 360 days now. The issue now is the size of that disclosure. See, all of you've done it. We laugh. You're listening to a radio ad and you hear about the car for sale or the home for sale, and then the last 15 seconds are, no interest rate at all, closed. The senator from the 53rd could probably do it a heck of a lot better than I could. But that's how the disclosure comes across. And that bothers me, because that type of a disclosure is no disclosure at all. This bill fixes that. It says if you're going to have a disclosure in a radio ad, it's got to be read at the same speed as your advertisement. Now, if you think everybody can take in your advertisement at that speed, you're just fine running the disclosure just as fast. But if you think you need to slow down your regular ad, you're going to have to slow down your disclosure as well. It affects two fields. I've been asked why two. Well, one is because I personally believe the advertisement that my business, I'm a lawyer, I'm a trial lawyer, that's not a secret to this room. that my business has gone into, the advertisements that we've gone into, I think have gotten to a point that they pervert the system of justice and folks' perception of justice. You see, if you can dance around, I've done cases where people have settled or won jury trials for $350,000. It's because they broke a hip. And let me assure you, if you break a hip, you're not dancing with a check. If you've spent 6 months trying to pay your bills, you're not jumping up and down as the money's falling out of the sky. And when 12 people who have nothing to do with that case are constantly bombarded with such advertisements, when they walk into our courthouses and are picked on a panel of 36 and then on a jury of 12, that is stuck in their mind. And while it may help me as a trial lawyer, it hurts me as a citizen. And I feel a duty as an attorney to do my best to try to make things fair. So the disclosure we passed last year, this bill, goes pretty heavy. It says that disclosure, if it's in print media, would need to be 50% of the ad. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's a sheet. It's got an amendment from one of my friends on it. If this were the ad, this would be the size of the disclosure. If it were on a billboard, which I know a lot of you have been contacted about that, it would be the same. I'm not trying to regulate their content anymore. I'm not trying to say they can't say things that aren't true. The First Amendment lets you stand up there and say anything untrue you want to. It's just saying if you're going to say something that's untrue, use people on the billboard that aren't in your firm, that you're going to have to run the disclosure at 50% of your ad. Folks have said this kills the industry. That's not my desire. I would rather people just advertise honestly. If they do, they don't have to do a disclaimer at all. But if they won't, they're gonna have to run the disclaimer. As we were looking at this, I wanted to know how much attorneys affected advertisement. I figured they'd be the #1 advertiser. They're not. They're actually number 8. Number 1 through 7 is pharma. So I started to look, and I'm like, how is pharma able to advertise this much, though, and not affect things in a pharmaceutical system of justice or comparatively? But lawyers are. Maybe I can take a tip from pharma and make this work. And what I realized is that actually I was wrong on what it was doing in the sense of pharma. By coming in between the doctor-client-patient relationship, what we have seen is an explosion of cost in our pharmaceutical markets. So much so that our neighbor state, North Carolina, who we like to match quite often, has said we can't even afford certain drugs on our state health benefit plan anymore because the costs are too much. I'm not saying that those drug companies can't advertise anymore. I'm just saying, when you pass Amendment 1, that the disclosure they already have to run when you see them dancing through fields of barley, talking about the fact that blood can come out of various orifices, that they have to run a disclosure too. And that disclosure has to be 50% of the ad. We worked with the pharmaceutical industry, so Amendment 1 is accepted by me. It's accepted because they said, listen, we get what you're trying to do. We don't necessarily like it, but if you can make sure we're just running our FDA already required disclosure, that would make us more palatable. So I'm going to take that amendment. I think that's great. There's a reason why I'm going to oppose Amendment 2. And it's not because I'm not friends with the people on it. There's some of my best in this chamber. But it's because what Amendment 2 essentially does, only to lawyer advertising, by the way, not to both, is it pulls out the 50% requirement, and it says that we instead shall get everything approved by the state bar for advertising. I run a concern there, a dual fold. One, we're now potentially regulating the practice of law, And that's a field that the Georgia Supreme Court has told us is their sphere, not ours. So I run that worry there. I run that worry further by this. What if they don't do it? What do we do? And I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to come down here for 40 days away from my family, you away from your family, and pass bills that don't matter. This bill is an approach. It's an approach that I still am willing to work with folks. You remember when I asked you to table it, that I said, give me 24 hours. Well, y'all, that's 72 hours later. I feel like I've been amply kind with my time and yours to try to work this out. And I'm willing to speak to those in the hall and say, I'm even willing to work on that still. But what I need your help doing is defeating Amendment 2 and passing the strongest bill possible out of this chamber, so that when I am negotiating across the hall and when I am negotiating with the folks in the hall, you've put me in the strongest negotiating position possible. And if we water the bill down before we get to that negotiating posture, well, you guys know if it becomes weak now, it only gets weaker later. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well and look forward to addressing the amendments in close.
Senator has yielded. Senator from the 50, recognize you to speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank my friend from the 19th for bringing this piece of legislation in all sincerity, because what he is arguing for and advocating for, I agree with. I really do. I do not think that lawyers from out of this state should be allowed to come in here and tell the people of Georgia what they can or cannot do and raise expectations and mislead the public. But I also don't believe this Senate body has the power to circumvent the Constitution, violate the Commerce Clause, violate the Dormant Commerce Clause, and tell billboard companies what they can and cannot do. The framers of our Constitution created the Commerce Clause for a reason. And I'll do a brief history. There was in 1820, one of the first cases that came about from the Commerce Clause, there was it was a ferry, a guy that owned a ferry. And he would take people from New Jersey to New York and vice versa. There was another guy that came in and said, you know what, I want to do that too. But there was a state law that said this one guy was the only one that could do it. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? As a state, you cannot regulate this one guy and make him the only one that has exclusive rights to go back and forth. And that was one of the first major cases of the Commerce Clause. And it's morphed. And you've seen, as interstate trade has increased, as states do more business with each other, the Commerce Clause has come up a lot. It came up a lot in the 60s with the Civil Rights Movement. And here we are now. We're regulating commercial ads on an interstate. I think it's hard to say that's not interstate commerce. So I agree with the senator from the 19th. I don't want to come down here and pass a bill that's not going to do anything. If we're going to do something, let's do something. So what my amendment does is it says that the State Bar of Georgia shall promulgate rules of advertising to be adhered to. And any person or persons soliciting such services to the general public on TV, radio, or visual media platforms to ensure such solicitations comply with the provisions of OCGA 10-1-424.1, which prevent it from being misleading. Then, the second section says the State Bar of Georgia may reprimand, suspend, licensure, disbar any person. And the senator made a great point. What if they don't? Well, that's why I'm passing out Amendment 2A, which changes the may to a shall. It says the State Bar of Georgia shall enforce these rules. And I think that this helps because it will not just apply to lawyers in the state of Georgia, it'll apply to legal advertisements in the state of Georgia. So that if you're from out of the state, you advertise in the state, and you violate our laws, then you're going to get reprimanded, and I think you could get your ads pulled. But the real thing, and I know it deals with pharma too, and I don't necessarily know how to address that, but I think his amendment may. But take the legal profession out of it completely. Take the pharma out of it. Look at the billboards. There are billboards all over the state, and there are people that rely on this income. What if the next bill is for fast food restaurants? 50% of it has to say how many calories are in the burger. What if it's for gas stations? What if they make it for funeral homes, car dealerships, realtors, bankers? Is it our job to regulate commercial free speech in the state of Georgia? No, but there are professional boards, the State Bar of Georgia, for example, and if we say you have to do it, then they've got to do it. And there's an argument that I've heard in the chamber today that maybe a conversation has been had with people across the hall that said, no, this is regulating the practice of law. You can't do that. The State Bar of Georgia has something called the Professional Rules of Conduct. Every lawyer in the state of Georgia has to pass a test saying that they know these rules of professional conduct. Well, Rule 7.1 deals with communications with the public and specifically addresses advertising. But what my friend from the 19th pointed out is obviously we haven't given them teeth to enforce it. Let's give them some teeth. Let's give them some teeth to enforce it. So I would strongly ask for your consideration to support Amendment 2 and Amendment 2A to hopefully accomplish the goal that the senator from the 19th has without disrupting an entire industry and violating our Constitution as written. Mr. President, I'm happy to yield for any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the...
The senator addressed his amendment to his amendment while he was in the well, but I need the secretary to read it to the body here. Secretary?
Senator Hatchett of the 50th offered the following Amendment 2A to amend Senate Bill 427 by striking may on line 8 and replacing with shall. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 13th to speak to the bill.
Colleagues, I know you're hungry. Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to speak to this bill here. Let me first start off with a little disclosure. I own billboards, okay? I'll probably recuse myself from voting on this issue because of the technicalities. When you try to read the rules, it's so ambiguous I don't exactly know what it says. I've asked 3 lawyers and they've given me 3 different answers. And that's normally how it works around here. I want to start by saying that, you know, that Appropriations Chairman is my dear friend. And I do not like to be up here going against something he's pretty much set his mind on. Because when the Appropriations Chairman works on something, he's pretty methodical about getting it done. And I appreciate his time, I appreciate his effort, and I certainly appreciate what he does when it comes to appropriations. And that's a big job. Here's the bottom line, folks. We're dealing with a lawyer versus lawyer bill here. That's all we're dealing with here, lawyer versus lawyer. Who's going to get the money and how I'm going to get the money? And the reality of what we're dealing with is here, this should not be in front of this board. Government should not be getting between lawyers. I'm just telling you how I feel about it. I don't want to mince words here. Here's the deal. The Appropriations Chairman has said this will help tort reform. This will cure tort reform. This has absolutely nothing to do with tort reform. You want to cure tort reform? I know how to cure tort reform. You can make the other side pay the loser. Whoever loses pays the other side. You can stop tort reform tomorrow if you want to get rid of tort reform. This bill does not do with tort reform. This bill says that, and I don't know what's carved out, but I want to make sure we understand that advertising, I'm assuming that's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm assuming that's radio, television, media. What about the internet? It's out there. When a lawyer advertises on that board or that media, half that board has to be a disclosure. Now, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee brought something up to you. He's folded a yellow piece of paper. I thought I'd bring you a little bit more visual context. Okay? This is what you get on a billboard riding down the road 80 miles an hour. Can you read it? You can't read it. Here's the deal, boys and girls. The billboard advertisers that advertise on our billboards, first of all, they're legal. Second of all, we pay a permit to the state to have these billboards. Then we pay property taxes. Then we pay leases to the people that own the land to have these billboards. And these are mom and pops. These are people who depend on that money. Now, your people who are advertising are now saying, we're going to pay you half. Because technically, we can't use but half the board. Now, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is going to have a problem with that because you go buy a full page for $10,000 and you can't use but half that page. They're going to want to pay half that money. Because technically speaking, you're only using half the board for your advertisement. These boards are expensive to build. Does anybody have a clue what a billboard costs to build? $150,000. Okay? Just a normal billboard. If you put a digital sign on it, you're up in the neighborhood of about $350,000 to put a billboard up with a digital sign on it. Okay? I mean, I'm just telling you facts. Now, here we go. Let's just get down to it. I think the Supreme Court already ruled it. People like strip clubs can advertise without any regulations. But yet we want to regulate lawyers on a billboard and tell them they got to do half their stuff as a disclaimer because other people or other lawyers don't like lawyers from outside coming in, taking their money, taking their clients. I don't know exactly how far we want to go with this, but that's what it appears, and that's on the subject matter. My position is this right here. If a lawyer hands you his business card, he is soliciting. Half his business card should be a disclosure. I may be wrong here, but I don't think I am. But I'm just giving you the idea where we're going here. Billboard, you can hate billboards. You can hate magazines. You can hate the newspaper. You can hate the internet. But just because you hate something doesn't mean it's wrong, it's right to hate it. And it doesn't mean that you have the right to regulate it because we think we have that right in this body to regulate something that may or may not be constitutional. Now, I'm not a lawyer. Let me explain this to you up front. I told you I was a billboard owner. And I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I want to tell you something. The senator over here from the 50th said this is a possible First Amendment violation. I read the First Amendment setting a while ago and read it. There's no doubt it is. But I got one more for you. This is a government taking. And I'm going to read you the statute on that. There's three types of government takings. There's a physical taking we all know about. There's a regulatory taking that we know about. And we know that there is and I'm not exactly sure how you say it, a pro tanto, pro tanto takings. But I'm going to skip all that. I'm going to go to the easy one. I'm going to go to the regulatory taking. And I just want to hit the highlights here. The regulatory taking, It's the exercise of authority involved of a government enforcing and regulating the use of one's property, such as through zoning. However, it's more than that. It can be a physical loss of property, or however your personal or capacity to use your property is being somewhat limited. That's a regulatory taking. I'll assure you, gentlemen, ladies, and senators, this is a taking. You are limiting the ability to use the property. So here's the deal now. I'm going to pay mom and pop $200 a month to rent their ground. I'm going to rent this sign. Let's just say I rent this sign for $1,000. Pick a number. I don't care. $500, whatever. Now I'm going to be able to rent it for $500, half of that, or either $250 if it's $500. And guess what? Mom and pop's going to lose money that they depend on because we can't advertise, because lawyers don't like lawyers advertising. And if lawyers have a problem with advertising, take it up with the freaking law board, the state Supreme Court, and get something done with it. And allow it to move forward on their basis, not on our basis. And I will tell you something else here I want you to know. If government tries to limit this type of advertising, where does it stop? What is the number one killer in America? Think about it. Obesity. Obesity. So from now on, when McDonald's advertises, they got to put up half their board that says, well, if you eat our hamburgers, you might possibly get overweight and you might die with heart cardiovascular disease. We're just continuing down a spiraling path that we don't need to go. This is something that should not be even brought up today. I want you all to know this straight up from what I'm trying to tell you. This is not a tort reform bill. This is a bad bill. This is a poison pill to what we're trying to do here. It's a danger to drivers driving down the highway. They're trying to read these ads. They're running 80 miles an hour. They can't see them. It is a danger. There you go. It's a danger. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. I got a banker friend in here that's a senator from the 3rd. Banks make loans to these billboards to be built. These billboard companies have to pay these loans back, or guess what happens? Somebody else gets to own those billboards. It will hurt financial institutions because they're going to see a drop in ability to pay back. And these things are extremely expensive, like I told you to start with. So those type things have a lot to do with it. The real issue here is, where does this thing stop? Let's just say a lawyer wants to advertise at the Little League field. You've all bought these little 6x8 or 4x8 or 4x whatever they are, little signs. Half of that's got to be a disclaimer at the Little League field. Okay? How about your annuals that you do and for your children when you buy ads in the annuals? Half that's got to be a disclaimer in your annuals. How about when you do for civic clubs, when you take out an ad? Half that's got to be a disclaimer. Now, I understand they want to police their industry. If they want to police their industry, let them do that within their industry. This is not a fight that the legislature should take up. This is a fight with lawyers, their state bar, the federal bar, whatever you want to say it. This is a fight there. This will lead to major lawsuits. This will lead to major lawsuits. How do you police the internet? We're going to have civil lawsuits filed against the internet people? It'll take an army of lawyers to file all these lawsuits. All of them. My point to you folks is here, I'm asking you to vote this bill down. I'm asking you, obviously I want you to pass the amendment if we won't vote the bill down, but this bill needs to be voted down, and we need to get out of the business of trying to regulate lawyers to lawyers. This is not what we need to be doing, boys and girls. This is not what we need to be doing. This is something that I hope you will definitely take to heart, think about your vote, and vote no on this issue. And let's go and move on and get some lunch. Mr. President, I yield well.
The senator has yielded. I think he yielded.
I'll be more than happy to take them. Bring them on. Bring them on. Let's talk about it. I thought y'all were hungry.
I recognize the senator from the 28th.
Yes, I'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. President. You yield? I'm sure you do. Is it not true that you just called this august body a board?
Who? I can't understand you.
You called this body, is it not true you called this body a board?
I don't know if I did or not, to be honest with you, but I'll take your word for it.
You did.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, which side of this board would you put the disclaimer?
Well, it's going to matter, left or right. Pick one. I'll go along with whatever you say on that. And by the way, I couldn't read it, whichever you put there, if either side.
All right, Senator, you don't have any more questions.
Oh, please. Thank y'all. Please vote no.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against this measure? I recognize the senator from the 19th to close debate.
It's hard to follow. But I think I need to clear up a few things. First of all, we've obviously struck a chord. If you strike a chord that hard, you're about to make a difference. Don't lose sight on that. The senator from the 50th said that we can't regulate billboards. Well, we already do. OCGA 32-6-75.3 says that we can tell them when and when they can't cut their trees. My good friend, the senator from the 13th, raised a bunch of points. And my understanding and synopsis of his summary is that if we pass this bill, mom and pop won't eat. McDonald's will have disclosures. Reading billboards will be dangerous. We're going to have more wrecks. Banks are going to fail. We're going to have to build more law schools for all the lawyers. That's not true. It's simply not true. The senator from the 50th has done a really good job drafting an amendment that I hope we can get in a final bill. I've actually said, hey, listen, if we can work out a few more things, I may be okay with this. There's a few more things we've got to do. His made a shall was one of them, but there are a few more things that have to be worked out if this bill is going to have teeth and make it. And when we pass this bill today, if we pass this bill today, you're going to get to choose whether or not this body is in a very strong position, and I make it personal, but I don't mean it personally, whether or not I'm in a very strong position to negotiate a bill, or whether I'm going into the fight with half of the fight already conceded. And I would ask you don't do that to me. I would ask you defeat Amendment 2, you accept Amendment 1, and pass the bill overall. Thank you so much for your time today.
Senator has yielded. All right, we're on to the amendments here. Amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 19th. Senator from the 13th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I'm not exactly sure about this, but just to be on the safe side, I will ask unanimous consent to be excused from voting on SB 427 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1-8.
All right. Well.
And I don't mind voting on it. You all want to vote for me to vote on it? I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. Bring it on.
Oh, Senator, does anybody object to that? Anybody object to that? Hearing none, the senator is excused. I was for it before I was against it. Now I just won't be a part of any of it. So, all right. On Amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 19th, is there objection? Without objection, Amendment 1 is adopted. On Amendment 2A, authored by the senator from the 50th, changing his wording from Amendment 2. On Amendment 2A, is there objection? Without objection, Amendment 2A is added. On Amendment 2, authored by the senator from the 50th, is there objection? There is objection. I'm just interested to see how this vote's going to go. So all those in favor of the amendment vote yea, all opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. I tell you, the coalition that you lawyers bring out in folks is something else. On the adoption of the amendment, the yeas are 24 and the nays are 27, and this amendment has failed. All right, is there objection to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43 and nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adhere to substitute House Bill 915 and that a conference be appointed.
Senator has moved that a conference committee be appointed to HB 915. Is there objection? Without objection, the conferees will be the senator from the 18th, senator from the 51st, and the senator from the 19th. Senator from the Majority Leader. Mr. Leader, do you
parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Are there any other lawyer bills that we can pull up today?
You know what, Senator? I think everybody's ready to go to lunch, and
oh, okay.
So I'll take another motion, though.
All right, I'll move that the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to H.R. 978 until 11 a.m. on Monday, February the 26th. 11 a.m.
All right, the Majority Leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned till 11 a.m. Monday, February 26th. Secretary, read the announcements.
The Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in 4:50. The Retirement Committee will meet at 2 p.m. in 307 of the 310 of the CLOB. The Banking and Financial Institutions Committee will meet at 2 p.m. in 4:50. The Regulated Industries Committee will meet at 3 p.m. in 4:50. The Economic Development and Tourism Committee will meet in 307 of the CLOB at 4 p.m. The Public Safety Committee will meet at 4 p.m. in 4:50. The Judiciary Committee will meet at 5 p.m. in 307 of the CLOB. And the Natural Resources and Environment Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 5 p.m. The Finance and Children and Families Committee meetings were canceled for today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, Senator from the 36th,
Mr. President, just an announcement that the Working Families Caucus luncheon is canceled for today. See you next Thursday at that meeting, but we will not have a luncheon today.
All right, any other announcements? Got a lot of committee work. Remember, crossover is next Thursday, so you got a lot of committee work between now and next Thursday. And need to show up when you're on a committee. You need to try to show up because we've been having trouble with quorums. So please show up to your committees that you're assigned to. All right, the majority leader has moved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes clearly have it. Have a good weekend.